no. What's going on? Gosh, what's going on? Nothing seems to be working. Oh, don't you just love it? Good morning, one and all. It is still morning. I'm not that late. I'm not that late. I mean, I know I said I wasn't. To be fair, I had said we were not even going to be doing one of these little ones today. So the fact that we are here at all is like, you know, how cool, how lucky are we? I don't know why this is not working right now. Everything is black. Yeah. Hey, and I can't figure out why. That is... Oh, look, that works. What's up? Hey. Hello, hello. Yes, this is a very special. We weren't planning on doing this today, but we are. Good timing. Hey, look at that. I knew, you know, I just knew it. Yeah. I knew we were in the need of some void right now. That's what's what. I've got to change the background. I have to do some tweaking to this background. So I will be doing that today. But I wanted to come on and say hi and have a look at... I don't know if any of you guys know Sean. Do you guys follow the YouTuber Sean by any chance? A few months ago, Sean released a video. Yeah, of course you do, Kim. A few months ago, Sean released... Sean, I think? Yeah, Sean, literally. He's one of the OGs. He's one of the OOGs, so he's just a voiceover skull. But a few months ago, he released a video on Palestine. And I just think lately we have not had enough conversation about what's been going on in Palestine. So I thought we could watch his video on Palestine together and have a chat about some of the latest advancements and what's been going on over there. Now, I know that is a pretty hardcore topic and not the kind of thing that everybody... Yeah, he's a skull. He's a skull. I love his stuff. I absolutely love his videos. Him and horses, I fall asleep listening to their videos. I just absolutely love them. It's so, I know, even though they're about intense stuff, but it's so relaxing that somebody is. You know? I just find it so relaxing that somebody is talking about it. I'll pull it up on the video here. There you go, B. Winning. Actually, we do. I think we need to have, like, you know, what do you call it? Our media recommendations. I need to do some tidying up on the Discord as well. I don't know. I feel like I've got to get all of this stuff. I'm going to get all my background sorted. Gonna get all this layout professionalized. And when I go to pick up the kids, I am also going to stop by Officeworks. So thank you again, Voidus, for your lovely kind donations. Turn the background sounds off. Is it quite bad, is it? Hang on a sec. Audio, reduce mic background noise. How's that? Ad break already? Do you know what? I'm going to go and put some water How's that for cancelling out the background noise? Can't hear it now, can ya? I just put more water in there. Oh, you turn. Oh, shit. Hi. Hey, Jose. I forgot that there was music on. Sorry. I can't hear it. It just comes to you guys. I can't hear the music. It's supposed to turn off it's supposed to fade out when I come on the screen. I don't know why it didn't. Yeah. Whoopsies. I forgot you were talking about. I was fiddling with my audio. I gotta fix that now because I turned off echo. I don't know. I feel like echo cancellation is important, but anyway, yo yo yo, yo yo yo. It's not doing that, obviously. No. Now, yesterday I was making a pair of pants, and I'm nearly finished with it. I'm nearly finished with them. I just have to. So this is the top. What do you call it? The waistband. I just have to stay stitch. Not stay stitch. Sorry, I just have to understitch the waistband, and pretty much they'll be good to go. So I'm very excited. Yeah. That's all I got to say about that. Ooh. No is avoidable in this space. Am I to blame for sending you videos by Jewish colleges about Lens? Oh, we're live again. We're back. Hello. We're back from ads. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. So I did think that we would talk about, we would do that video on Sean today. We'll look at Sean's video. But I did want to show you these pants that I made because I knocked them up in a day. And I know that this is, again, like I say this all the time, I'm aware that this is a privilege to have the education and the supplies and the, like I am aware of my privilege when I say this. But when I talk about little acts of rebellion, this is exactly the shit that I'm talking about. Like, I need a new pair of pants. And so instead of going and buying fast fashion bullshit, which I know that 60% or something, like something ridiculous, some ridiculous amount, like the amount of clothing that is destroyed versus what is actually sold in fast fashion is it's been criminal. Criminal is what it is. Sewing is a skill I struggle with. Yeah. Just the privilege of subscribing. I see, this is why I subscribe, so no ads. Exactly. This is the privilege. This is the privilege. But this is a privilege as well. Like, I am aware that this is a privilege. But when I talk about little acts of rebellion, things like this, being able to, and like as a one-off, it isn't necessarily going to have the desired effect, obviously. But if we start more and more to make communities where instead of we change our habits, if we change our habits so that we need different things from our communities. So instead of needing, to somewhere where I can buy cheap clothes, what I need is someone in my community who can help me mend the clothes that I already have, because I've changed. Like I'm changing my mindset. Anyway, that's it. That is all I have to say today about, what am I saying? Ah, you and me just became a voidist. Coitus just became a voidist. Welcome, new voidists. New voiders. Hey, Fannikins just became a voidist. Ms. Flossie just became a voidist. Gosh almighty. Thank you so much for joining the void, peoples. There is my contribution to the webcam. You dag. You dag, you dag, you jag. Here we go. Now, I am going to pull up the video. Oh, I'm going to have to do it. Yeah, I still haven't worked out my sound through OBS. I was fiddling with it the other night to try and figure it out, but no good. No good. So let's pull it up on here instead. No, I don't want to search across my channel. No, thank you. I want to go home. I was watching a video about just pearly things earlier. I don't know why I enjoy, I don't know. All right. I don't know why I enjoy watching things like that. I feel like I should know better. No, I should know better. Now, this video does go for an hour and a half. And so we will not probably get through all of it. But I would like for anyone who is not familiar with Sean's work to go and check it out themselves and go and look at it themselves anyway. So I kind of feel like it's better to not watch the whole thing together, but watch it to get an idea of the things that's discussed. Oh, see you, Juzzy. Ah, bye. Literally just walked down my lunch. I was watching videos about lost wax bronze castings. There you go. Oh, back to work. See yous at 4. Okay. Well, we will be doing book club, Juzzy. So I hope you've read your book, or at least the first chapter. We'll probably only discuss the first chapter because I'm guessing that's all anybody's read. So, see you later. Yeah. So same with this video in particular. I would like this to almost be like an introduction to Sean for people who haven't seen his stuff before. Not that I'm like sitting around here going, oh, let me introduce this smaller YouTuber to you all. Like, no. The first page probably, yeah. True. So Sean's got like 700,000 subscribers. But yeah, this video came out 2 months ago. Noah Samson is another YouTuber who's been talking a lot about what's been happening in Palestine. So in terms of people who are still speaking out about what's going on, there are people with larger subscriber counts on these platforms. Now, something that I have noticed is that I'm able to make some comments about things like this on some platforms, but not others. And it just seems to be like on Twitch and YouTube, I fly under the radar, so I can make comments about these sorts of things. On TikTok, I don't. So my videos get blocked. I have too many followers over on TikTok. I've been trying to talk about what's been happening over there, how much worse it's been getting. In particular, yeah, 700,000 subs and the 1.4 views on the 1.4 million views on the video. And it's like one of their lesser viewed videos. Like, it's a newer video. So, Sean doesn't need my help promoting them in any stretch of the imagination. I suppose that you can say genocide on TikTok now. Really? Wow. How? Like, this is the thing I don't understand about censorship. You know, like I understand blocking out words like, uh, SUI, unaliving, for example, because that, talking about that can have, I just I don't understand the need to censor a word like genocide. That doesn't make sense. There are some words that I can understand why it may need to be censored in certain contexts. Genocide ain't one of them. When does genocide come up in any other context other than the discussion of a potential genocide? Like, uh, there's stuff missing from all this though. People have seemingly no idea what the end solution is ever going to, given Israel's history. I think it's pretty. I mean, I don't know if I'm being too negative, Nelly, but I do feel like I do know what their goal is, and it's the complete annihilation of the Palestinian people. Yeah, they've had to make up a whole new language for the app. We have, and it's ridiculous. Now the reason I wanted to watch this video, now I have only been able to watch this one through a couple of times myself. Um, yeah, to completely annihilate the people altogether. Now, let's not forget either that this is also part of a proxy war that is going on between the US and Iran. There is a proxy war going on between the US and Iran. Now, for those of you who don't know, the US has done cyber terrorism on Iran in terms of, like, these are nuclear powered states that we're talking about as well, which is terrifying to think about. But one of the things that I do find so disgusting about this is that, again, when we're talking about a US election happening in November, something that I want everyone to keep in mind when we are discussing, aware again that this is an audience of people who are probably more aware rather than less, and so don't necessarily need to have a lecture on this sort of thing. But the US election, like, whenever people talk about the fact that, what are we supposed to do about this? Like, these targeted attacks on Palestine wouldn't be possible without the operating facilities at Pine Gap in Alice Springs. This genocide wouldn't be possible without the assistance that's being given through a facility being operated on our soil in the middle of Alice Springs. Now, I grew up knowing about this facility because my grandmother worked there before I was even born as a cleaner. Everyone who works there is a cleaner. That's just what every single person who works there is called. Don't know what her actual job was, but anyway, I didn't realize that it was such a secret. Like, it's not really that secretive. Like, it's not like, yeah, I still got to look into Pino Clean. Yeah. So I was really unaware of how people were so unaware of, for example, the Rudd Gillard years. Obviously the reason they wanted to get rid of Rudd was because he was a threat to American businesses, because it's all about, like, one of the reasons that the Liberal Party schism was so unheard, like, no one could see it coming, was because it was completely internal, whereas the Labor Party's issues are often more external as well. It's annihilation of Palestine for sure, yeah. No. Yeah. No, Palestine isn't going to survive as a place or a people. Absolutely, it's not. And what we, like, I think one of the things that really what was that movie? What was it called? The Zone of Interest. Have you guys seen The Zone of Interest? Yeah. Not seen that one. No, that's okay. So the Zone of Interest, when they were making it, I was watching an interview with the sound designer when they were making the film, because they actually made two different films. They made two completely different films. When they were filming the family's activities in the house and everything and all of that, they designed it like the camera was stationary, like wide angles, natural lighting. Say that again. You know the sound designer. No, I don't know the sound designer. I was watching an interview with the sound designer. I was watching an interview with the sound designer, sorry. And they were saying how they basically created two films. So there was film one, which was what you saw on the screen, right? That was all completely finished and everything. Then there was film two, which is the sound design that's going on in the background. So all the sounds and things that you're hearing throughout the film, um, the actors who were on set weren't hearing that when it was going on, which is what lends itself to this idea that the actors are blocking it out, they've become immune to it, they're ignoring it because it's not actually there. Like there's an entire second film with a script, with a with a cast, with a budget, with a crew that was just the sound design for the film. And it was done in such a way that the whole time you're just watching this family existing throughout this, like living right next door to Auschwitz with just a wall separating them. And you can hear the horror of it the whole time through the film. But one of the things the sound designer said when he was talking about it was that he came in one morning after he'd been working on it and turned on the sound where he'd been up to partway through a refrain and was blown away by how loud this train noise was. It was like, whoa, shit, like I got to rebalance that. And then realized that they were becoming it was becoming like monotonous background noise to them as they were producing the sound of the film. Like the effect that they were, like it was really hard to do because the effect that they were looking for, they kept falling susceptible to it and it kept messing. Like it took such a long time to get this balance right where it felt like both the horror of what's happening over the wall as well as this monotonous continual train coming through, constantly bringing through new victims. I refuse to call them prisoners, like victims. Sorry, the sound of that makes it. Yeah. Oh, what? Oh, say that again. The sound designer. No, no, no. Wish I had an in there. I wish. Are you fucking kidding me? No. I did work on. There was a film called Thunderstruck that was filmed at. It was filmed around the corner from me when I was younger, and my dad knew the makeup artist who'd been hired for the set. So I got to hang around on set and run around, and I actually was in a couple of background scenes that were being filmed. There's a scene in Thunderstruck with two guys pushing a wheelchair around like an old folks' home. I don't remember the movie at all beyond the title and this particular scene because I was in the background, like helping these little old ladies, just visiting whatever. Anyway, I was totally convinced. Like I was telling everyone, I was totally convinced I was going to become an actress. I was like, yeah, I was in a background scene. Yep, can't even see my face. Yep. They just wanted my hair up in a ponytail because I had nice blonde hair and I looked like a little child coming to visit their grandmother. That's all they wanted for the frame. It was my hair, the back of my head. Link for the video if people haven't seen it in the Discord. Oh, for the zone of interest or for Palestine? That's a good idea. Let's put Command C. Let's do this. I'm in the pool. Oh, but I love that for you, Emery. I love that for you. I love that for you. We are reviewing Sean's Video on Palestine. Oh, ew. I do feel bad that I always do this to poor Emery. Just looked Thunderstruck up. I have an in there. My ex went to school with Stephen Curry, and a friend is his cousin. There you go. Oh, zone. Yep. Okay. Zone of interest. I'll. The zone of interest. I honestly do think as well that in terms of. So I'm going to put a link in. This is the video that I've been discussing. But in terms of movies that also tell a story in an interesting way, or like it's not just about the story they're telling. Like if you're going to walk such well-trodden, such well-trodden narrative refrain, I suppose. I don't know what, as the Holocaust, finding an interesting or different or engaging way to do it is, I think, one of the best ways to remind us of just how horrific it is. Because I remember when I saw The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I remember when I saw that, I was like, that's a good way of telling the story differently. Because the whole time you're sitting there wanting, this kid to be saved. And it's like, it almost makes you sit there with it and go, I mean, I did find it a little bit tacky in places, don't get me wrong. But it almost makes you sit there with it a little bit at the end and just go, it's already happened. Like this tragedy has already happened. And I feel like when we're talking about something like that and we are looking at something like what's happening in Palestine, that's what really breaks my heart, is the fact that, stories like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, where it's like if someone stepped in at the right moment, this kid could be saved. That's what we're dealing with now. That's what we have now with Palestine. You know what I mean? That's what we have. That's the situation we're kind of looking at. Yeah, it's an iconic piece of cinema. It'll certainly lead to more understanding of what happened in the camps. And yeah, absolutely. And he was talking about the way as well. Not much use if you want to work. Yeah. But he was talking as well about the way that they sort of looked at what was happening in the camps during that time. They wanted to get it as accurate as possible. And there had been like large shipments of people coming in because the Germans had gone into France during that time. And so there'd been a lot of French people being brought in to the camp at Auschwitz. And so they were wearing like jacket lapels, microphone lapels, and walking through the riots in France, and we're hearing all the shouts and the screams and sampling bits of that and what that sounded like. Sounds of, and that's what he said. He said, sounds of French distress, sounds of French pain. So that it sounded, because one thing that they really struggled with that second film, the minute they tried to get voice actors or sound actors in to do those, to give them that kind of performance, it immediately, because everything else was so, like the framing of the family, the lighting of the family, it was all very like stock. Cameras were set up in the house in locations, and the family just like went through their activities basically ignoring the cameras. There wasn't a whole lot of, like, it was very naturally shot because the sound design was the thing. Even so far as they went back to the original house where the family lived, to film the family walking up and down the hallways, and they had the Foley artists like turning the doorknobs in the original house and turning keys in the original house and turning on light switches in the original house, and like recording all of those sounds for film one. So they went real all out with film one to make it really natural and really authentic, and to try, because they didn't want to in any way glorify this family or in any way sort of like hold this family up as being a good example or anything. I don't think we do have that, and I don't think that the parade's actually working on Israel as a people. No. Yeah. 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 I think once again, like the conversation, it has taken, I think, millennials to get to the age where we are now, where we are actually voices in parliament. There are millennial voices in the media. There are millennial voices, in the mainstream out there who can say this is colonization. Like, we know what colonization looks like, but also having the wave of Gen Z coming through. I think we're only just getting to that point where, because for so long I remember people telling me that it was complicated, and looking at it and just going, and again, I think that comes from having a politicized identity as an Indigenous person and knowing what it meant to be an Indigenous person in a colonized country from a young age, being aware that when a whole big bunch of people move into your house and then start killing off your family members so that they can take over more of the rooms, it isn't really that complicated. Like, there ain't much complicated about it, and you can have the US and the UK standing around going, well, it's the best place we could have put them. They tried to put them out here in Australia too. Yeah. Yeah. Like, why the fuck haven't we tied it to Pine Clean? Why haven't people realised what part Australia's playing in the genocide of the Palestinian people? Absolutely. And it is shocking. It is shocking when people are so ignorant of it. Yeah. We could end it tomorrow by Parliament decree. It is all about the money. Absolutely, it's all about the money. Let's not forget that Whitlam wasn't trying to shut down Pine Clean. When Whitlam was when we had a coup, when the US did a little coup because of what was going on with Whitlam, wanted access to the Pine Clean facility for Australia's interests. He wasn't trying to shut it down. It's not like he was doing some great, like, yeah, the US just bloody does coups on our country whenever they feel like it, but it's not even like this guy was looking out for us. Yes, don't mean we say God save the king now, though hopefully, I hear he's not looking like he's going to last much longer. Have we heard that? Have we heard that? Bleh. King, yep. Agreed. Bleh. The Void After Dark group review. Sorry, guys. I'm just once again editing my layouts because, believe it or not, I'm still working. I'm still working on it, aren't I? Still working on it, bit by bit. Now,
First World War, and I remember military bombed. Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk.
I gotta say that, hello, everyone. Every single time I do a video, I have to fight myself not to start with that. Hello, everyone. Today, hello, everyone. Sorry. Hello, I'm sorry. I gotta stop. I can shut up tomorrow. My mate's father-in-law was involved in relocating the Jewish after World War II. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember the fact that the refugees of a World War II that suffered the worst subjugations again and again could only be put on stolen land that Lawrence helped nick in the war previous. And also because no one wanted them. Like, let's not all forget as well that the reason that the West is so gung-ho on protecting the idea of a Jewish state is because they were like, well, if we don't have somewhere we can put them, they're going to come here. Like Israel, a large part of the reason Israel exists is because of anti-Semitism. How awful is that? How awful is that? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I again would absolutely would agree on that as far as there we go. That's what I was looking for. That's the button I was looking for. Can never remember what it is. I do think that's the thing we need to remember as well is that here we go. Save that as word update layout. Thank you. Void after dark. Okay. I've received 100 messages today. Look at that little medal. I do need to figure out the background because I don't feel that contrast is going to work at all, especially not on review. Hi, everyone watching us on the review later on, which I know people do because we've got we hang out with 6 of us in here, and then it's view count is 20 on the review. So I'm like, oh, hello, reviewers. The review viewers. These people were quite happy being Russians or Germans. They weren't Jews first from Israel. They were Russian Jews, but the mistreatment was barbaric. Yeah, was barbaric. Yeah, absolutely. And that is the thing as well. I think that you know, we keep making excuses for why each time is different. And I think with what we're seeing with Palestine right now, is it's a little bit too obvious to too many of us that I don't know whether it's because I'm at an age now where it's more obvious or whether it is just the fact now. So after the ad break, we'll start watching it. But yeah, I just don't know. Let me know when the ad break starts too, because it's bonus content time. It's bone cone time. Yeah, I don't know. I find it so. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or any rhetoric that says blah, 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 Hamas, not realizing they're fighting people that are systematically trying to destroy their entire way of life, their entire everything. And framing it like it's a war as well when it's an invasion, it's a colonization invasion force. It is 100% just what Australia is still trying to do to us here, a zero-sum game. Yep. They're being willfully ignorant. Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to watch this today together. It is. And it is crippling when you understand this and you're trying to talk to people about it and you're trying to explain to people that if Hamas stop, they die. And people go, well, why don't they just? What do you not understand? It's exactly the same as saying, why didn't the Indigenous people, when the Australians first came here, why didn't they just what? What? Why didn't they just what? What are you supposed to do? If Israel stopped, they die too. But actually, if you look into the way that this war has been continually propped up and propagated, if you look into if we could just get rid of Benjamin Netanyahu, honestly, that would be a huge fucking first step. What amazes me, the more I look into the Middle East and the politics of the Middle East, what amazes me, and particularly because I just see it reflected so much in American politics in particular, it amazes me how every single time massive fuck-ups can be put in the court of one person, and people won't turn around and go, yeah, but how is one person able to wield that kind of power? Obviously, there's a systemic issue here. Like people, and it reminds me of like those the cop shows where they're like, oh, there was a crooked cop involved. They want to be like, we found that one crooked cop who was doing the wrong thing, but not talk about the systems in place that allow that kind of person access and ability to do what they were doing. They always want to stop the conversation far too early. So again, talking about Benjamin Netanyahu and everything that he's done and the problem that he's caused in the region is one thing, but you cannot ignore the US and the UK and like what I was saying earlier, Biden, if we were going to point to one man who is basically just Biden could literally step in and tell Israel to stop. The US has done it in the past. Biden is a bloodthirsty, like I was talking before about people not recognizing that people saying, what are we supposed to do about it all the way over here? In the US, your prime minister is advocating for this bloodthirst. In Australia, your country, on your soil, the means of destruction are being operated in your backyard. Like if you want to know what to do about it, look at the men who you call prime minister, you call president, you call leader. Yeah, men in power shit. But have a look closer to home, because oftentimes the levers that we can pull to do something about these very real injustices aren't that far away from our own fucking front doorsteps. It's stopping Iran and of the Arabic states that want to kill the Jewish people. Like we missed the bit where we as communists are calling for no borders. I think something that is I don't agree that religion should be a thing. As in, if you in your small community want to believe and support and have a faith of some sort, great. But in the similar ways that, like, I think faith should operate the same way it does in Indigenous communities, like it does in our community, where it's a local tradition. Like, yes, there is a wider belief in a spiritual realm, but there are local traditions and local customs, and there's an understanding that we don't all have the same beliefs, and you have to show respect for the customs and the land that you are standing on. And this is why one of the reasons why I do say that Indigenous cultures are so much more advanced than a lot of other Western cultures as well, because you've got these Western philosophers who go on and on and on about ideas of the Geist and ideas of like collective understandings of things, and we go, oh yeah, that's just pop culture. But that existed in Indigenous cultures for millennia before. The idea that different beliefs were true in different regions because of the collective understanding and belief of the people who lived in those regions. Yeah, no right to religion except individually. Exactly. And if you go to a place and you go, oh, what do you guys practice here? And like they're like, yeah, we practice this. And while you are here, these are the deities of this place where we are now. So while you're here visiting where we live, you've got to respect this place where we are. Cool. Like I can do that. I visited all kinds of different religious temples and institutions all around the world when I was traveling. It was a little bit of a hobby of mine, to be honest. But like that's very, very different from what we have now, where we have like global brotherhood, band of brothers type bullshit, which it's like it isn't done, because the best way to grow a movement is the othering of the enemy, right? Yeah, the whole standing on border and asking for entry, but also the fact that if you need help, no one was going to mind you needing help. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's why I think when people sort of sit there and want to mock a lot of the things that we talk about in communist spaces and especially in anarchic communist spaces, I quite often point straight to Indigenous cultures, because we still are operating in that. Like, I know I am not Noongar, But if I'm going down to the river, I will get the sand and I'll wipe it under my armpits and I will throw it in because I know the local custom and I understand the local like we still do these things. It's still happening. People just want to pretend that there is no culture outside of Hollywood, for fuck's sake. I don't know. Like, I don't know sometimes. I don't know sometimes. Come on, Belle. These wedulars. What the wedula? I keep saying wedula. I'm like, too Western. I'm still on my Western dialect. Wedula. Wedula's the northern. Gubbers, yeah. The whole standing on anyone with half a brain knows anarchist culture comes from Indigenous practices. Anyone with half a brain. Unfortunately, there aren't many of those. Yeah, Migaloo. Oh, white fella. They make me laugh. I haven't put on TikTok today either, which is why we don't have many people. I actually just didn't have the energy for TikTok today. I know that's terrible of me, but I just didn't have the energy for TikTok today. But it's different for different regions. Fuck TikTok. Yeah, exactly. They are. And like, it is good because quite often there'll be people who are like, oh, and they will jump across. Like, there's quite a lot of people who will jump across over onto Twitch and that. And I think I will keep doing that on like Mondays and Fridays. But I think Wednesdays, I would just rather have a little bit more chill. Or maybe just this Wednesday. I don't know. I'm just feeling like I need to be a bit chill right now. Maybe it's just me. Yeah. You're a fabulous mod. Kim, do not. We won't take any negative self-talk around here. Thank you very much. No negative self-talk around here. Absolutely not. But yeah, I am just finding that midweek slump for me, the Wednesdays, is the hardest day. And it's probably just because Emery's not here. Let's be honest. If Emery was here, I bet every day would be I act like it's my birthday. Oh, I should get my record player out. I will tonight. For book club tonight, I'll set up. For book club tonight, I'm going to set up so I can play the records. I can play my records while we sit and chat because it'll just be on the Discord. I'm not going to bother doing it on. Well, I'll do it on Twitch as well, but it will be mainly on the Discord, so I don't really have to worry about demonetization and all that. Like, getting. Doesn't really matter though, does it? Doesn't really matter. Nom 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 nom. Got tea to drink and biscuits to eat. White stream instead of mainstream. Yeah, that's a very, very good way of putting it. Yes, that makes my heart happy too. I want to know this. Why is there a significant call for Remain? Why is there a significant call to rename places like Nam? Oh, right. Yeah, because they were called that. And a lot of the time as well, names have significant meanings. Like they're part of stories, they're part of songlines, they're a part of cultural practices. Names have significance for a lot of different reasons. And removing the name from something, like, for example, one of the reasons why a lot of Indigenous people won't mention the name. Now, I have seen people who aren't in culture try and talk about this, people who are, Black presenting but aren't necessarily in culture try and talk about this. And it always makes me laugh a little bit because you can just tell, like, because I grew up out, I grew up out bush. I grew up out country. Like, I grew up in Kununurra, Alice Springs, so, you learn a lot from being around those sorts of places and those sorts of communities as well. But if you call on someone's name once they've passed, you can actually summon them. Like the spirit world, the ancestral plane is very closely linked to ours. our ancestors and things are always kind of with us. So if you mention and call their name, you disturbing them, you can bring them up. And it's the same thing with like taking photos of people. You can trap them. You can like trap them, tie them to this plane in a way that they might not want to be tied and trapped. And so it's really important you respect that and let people go when they want to go, because they might want to hang close to you. They might not. So if you keep calling them to you, it's a bit rude, you know? And it's the same with like name places for things, you know, it's the connections. One of the ways that we as a mob, as an identity, as a culture are connected is through our link with the spiritual plane, which, you know, you might have heard it called the dreaming as well, which is like a lot of our stories of creation things come from dreaming myth or dreaming stories. But the idea that there is this spiritual place that is connected, one of the ways we are connected through it is through names. Black presenting, yeah. Yeah, you can wake them from their dreaming. But places having names and being able to call, like people being able to be in certain places, like once you've passed, you have to be able to, like, names have a very strong connection to the spiritual realm. So calling places by their proper name helps, like, the spiritual plane be able to find them. It helps other people be able to access them. Like, it's there is a very strong cultural, spiritual, familial attachment to names. Yeah, and it's also preserving culture. And, like, for example, things like song lines, for example, Coogee Beach, smelly water. Coogee means smelly water. There's a lot of different places where you'll find, like in the town where I live, there's a Coogee, you know, Coogee, what do you call it? Coogee place. And it's because there's an old, like, swamp there. There's an old, big old swamp there. And so, you know, it just got called Coogee Place because it was a smelly water place. And now that's what the street's called, because it's just, you know, it preserves the history, it preserves the culture, it preserves the identity of a place. But certainly the connections and the spiritual connections are the thing that are, the thing that can that need protecting and preserving as well. Yes. Especially when you look at like Stewart Highway, Stirling Highway, like these huge big stretches of highway that connect, that go right through the heart of Noongar country. When he conducted like the Pingelly Massacre, you know, like the biggest massacre that happened in this area. And the guy who perpetrated it has got the largest stretch of highway that runs through this country named after him. It's really like, yeah, there's so many reasons to not, you know. Yeah, yep. But I think one of the things that people, and I think especially one of the things I think a lot of people misunderstand as well about culture is how it's still alive. Like, it still exists. It's still like we want to preserve things that we want to preserve that are part of the culture, because it is still, like, our culture can change and it can shift, but that doesn't mean that we want it to shift in the direction of the white fellas' identities and being more closely aligned with them and their ideas. You know what I mean? Like, we still want it to be reflective of our Black identity. We want our culture to reflect our Black identity. And so, you know, the places and things that we associate, especially when you're talking about major meeting places as well. Oh, yeah, no. No, absolutely. It is really a really obvious first step, but it is also like there are a lot. It's like when people say, you know, what do you call it? A welcome ceremony or acknowledgement ceremony is just, you know, it's so unnecessary and blah blah blah. Like, it is the bare minimum to acknowledge the culture of the people whose land that you're living on. If you were going to have a if you were going to have a presentation in a church, you would allow the priest to give a prayer before you started. You would respect the church and their methodology for conducting business. That is what this land is to us. Like, you were never disconnected from your, like, this is what I mean when I say to people about, like, I don't like religion at all, because religion is just, it's a part of their lives, where it is, there was no separation of church and state, because the church was the country, the very land that you were living on. Our connection to the spiritual realm and our connection to this country is so imperative to our livelihoods that it's impossible to separate our spiritual culture from our everyday lived lives experience. You know what I mean? Parliament starts with a fucking prayer, but they don't want to start any kind of official engagements with a welcome to country. Now, I'm sorry, but the reason a welcome to country was done was to let the spirits of that place know that you had been welcomed by the local people and you weren't a threat, so they wouldn't attack you. Like, if you notice things going well in your life when you're being really respectful of local cultures, just gonna say, like, honestly. Yeah, more people are saying Nam these days. More people are saying Nam. More people are saying Nam. Wajak. More people are saying Wajak for Perth. Wajak Nungabuja. Needs painting on all the signs around town. Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does, especially when you consider the fact that Nam, the anglicised name for Nam, was named after Queen Victoria's favourite minister, and it's where the whole idea of Prime Minister comes from. So Scott Morrison and his entire legacy, we can thank Lord Melbourne for that. So, yeah. Nam it is. Fuck that guy. Mengen is Bris Vegas Mengen? Bris Vegas. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Allergy. I do have some bad allergies. It's fine. I'm sorry, but that counts. That counts. All right, now I'm going to press play on Sean's video. If there's any issues with the sound or anything, let me know. I'm going to put my headphones on so I can hear it as well, though. Now, oh, these allergies kicking my butt. And honestly, if you want to do any, like, if you want to start your own thread called, like, Kim's Media List, where you, like, separate it out and do, like, whatever you want to do. Basically, what I'm saying is, whatever you want to do, feel free. Feel free to take charge.
Talk about the ongoing events in Palestine.
The power.
Now, talking about an ongoing event isn't all that usual
hear that?
for me on this. Hello, everyone.
So, you can hear it, but I can't. So it's my fault. Sorry.
Today I'd like to talk
Yeah,
about
it
the
was my
ongoing
fault.
events in Palestine. Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Today
everyone.
I'd like to talk about the ongoing events in Palestine. Now, talking about an ongoing event isn't all that usual for me on this channel, but honestly, I've found it hard to focus on anything else recently, which I'm sure a lot of you will understand. So instead of me wallowing in my thoughts, I'm going to share them with you in this video. I can remember the exact point when I started to really think about the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah,
It was seeing this picture taken in 2014 by Middle East correspondent Alan Sorensen. In it, a
absolutely.
group of Israeli civilians can be seen on a hilltop overlooking the Gaza Strip. They'd brought chairs to watch as the Israeli military bombed Gaza as part of Operation Protective Edge, and they were clapping when the bomb blasts were heard. This is behavior that was documented by the New York Times, ABC, The Guardian, and other news organizations. Before this point, I had a very naive and simplistic view of the Israel-Palestine issue. I thought I understood it as a conflict between two religious peoples who had competing claims for the same area of land and occasionally killed one another over it.
Now, now, I will. I just wanted to also mention that I remember when I was still in the cult. This is going back quite a few years now. We're talking like 7 years ago. I remember more than that even. I remember seeing what was happening in Israel and Gaza, like in Palestine. And I remember thinking at the time, like seeing the photos of the Israeli kids drawing love hearts on bombs, kissing bombs before they were going off to blow up Palestinian children. I remember at the time looking at that and thinking, surely it isn't about who has claim to a particular part of land when one side just seems to be taking absolute delight in the annihilation of the other. You know? Like this just seems to be more than a little one-sided. But yeah, the amount of people who we are fed this line, I suppose, through the media. I've been ignorant to all of this violence until recently. Yeah. And that's the thing, is this has been going on now, like this latest iteration of this has been going on for 75 years. You know? This isn't new, but it certainly isn't what I would call, yeah, like there is a very, very this isn't grey, is what I'm saying. There is nothing grey about what's happening. Now I'm going to press play again and I'm going to, yeah.
But I also understood that for some reason, Israel was supposed to be
Yeah.
the good guys, the morally superior ones, allies of the West in the Middle East. I didn't know why that was supposed to be true. I just knew that that is what my government and other governments in the West were predominantly saying. Now, seeing this picture put a crack in that impression. I knew that civilians were dying in those
Yeah.
bombings, and these people were clapping and cheering for it. The asymmetry of people on one side of a border being slaughtered while
I
people on
think,
the other side of the border threw a party to watch it happen was unbelievable to me. And even though
yeah.
I was very uninformed on the particular conflict going on at the time, or the wider history of the region in general, I thought, obviously, that's not right, is it? That can't be
No.
right in any
Oh,
circumstance to do
shocker.
what those people are doing. Now, the obvious shallow response to this is to point to a time when a group of Muslim civilians in the Middle East have cheered on some terror attack on the West or something like that and say, see, they do it too, so this is no different. Which, on the one hand, is a very childish rejoinder, as them doing it too would not get you off the hook for doing it, but also, it is different, isn't it? It's very different, because I'm not being asked to support that. My government isn't saying that's good. You see, my government supports just one
Yeah.
side in the conflict. It gives military aid and diplomatic cover to just one side in the conflict. And their
I
argument
think
for
that's
this,
what
and
people
Israel's argument
forget
for why it should be
as well.
supported,
When people
is that
say that other
Israel
people
is a
do this as
bastion
well.
of Western-like liberal values that needs to be protected.
Yeah,
Protected
no.
against the implied barbarism of the surrounding Muslim majority
Definitely not
countries.
great.
And thinking about this even on the very simplistic level, it was...
But see, that's the thing, is it's because it's just, again, it's that whole teams thing. It's just by their very alignment with us, or their very, I should say, their very alignment with the West, that we are supposed to take it as given that they're the good guys. But again, I wouldn't say that, again, America imperialism is the number one issue today. So, I mean, again, I'm a communist. What were you expecting me to say about it? But I mean, that's like a big fucking red flag to me. What, you're on the side of the US? God, I should be wary of you then. Yeah, it calmed down massively. Yep. But in terms of calming down massively, it got to the point where they were talking about a two-state solution. And I think that's why, like, again, we want to point the finger at Netanyahu, because it was his fault that completely collapsed. But again, why is it possible for one person to have this much of an effect on so many people's lives? Like, this is, people want to say democracy? Fuck this shit. They're like, unless you're talking about radical democracy, no. Ad break in 1 minute. All right. I just, Well, we're gonna pause there because we're going on an ad break in a minute, and I don't want to. We'll wait till we get back from the ad to continue playing more. But I do want to say that I am eternally frustrated with the idea that it wasn't even the right bloody one. I am eternally frustrated with the idea that you've broken Discord. Excellent. I'm eternally frustrated with the idea that there are good and bad teams in the international stage. Like, it's such a realists. It's really what I feel like it is. I feel like, in terms of realism, liberalism, constructivism, it's people who say they believe in realism using the liberalism that is inherent in the international system to their advantage to construct a realist narrative that creates this us versus them and keeps them on top. Because again, we all know that the best way to create a movement is to create an enemy, right? Like, Satan did it for Christianity. I did it just for Palestine. We'll tell everyone it was a protest for Palestine. But the US did it with the British. Like, they created the US state in part in opposition to the British. Like, the best way to create a kind of movement is to create it in opposition to another idea. Yeah. Yeah. It's acknowledging that any of this shit exists outside of capital, when what we want something very, very different from anarcho-communism. Exactly. But in creating these teams, it's like our team then has carte blanche, because until like the 2020, I think it was the 2020s, no leader outside of the African continent had faced any kind of retribution or any kind of sanctions from any international court. It was very much a tool that was being used by white Westerners to once again disparage countries that were, predominantly, being led by, as well, people of color. Oh yeah, go focus on work stuff. Fair enough. But Trying to work out if someone was opening my door to knock then, or if it was just the wind. It was just the wind. It's okay. Yep. Good luck, Belle. Good luck. We love you. We love you. I'm scraping the barrel. Scraping the barrel today. But yeah, it does. It frustrates me because anyone who isn't paying attention, like, will look at it and go, "Yep, like they're what they're saying is completely right. It's a dog eat dog world. We need our allies because like the world. It's like if the world was that vicious, we wouldn't be able to have allies. What you're saying is contradicting itself. Like that's one of the things with realism versus liberalism. Liberalism says that, yeah, it's all about cooperation and working together and allying. And realism says it's a dog eat dog world and it's all about who has the biggest gun. And these realists, like particularly in the US, want to sit there and go, yeah, it's all about realism. We have the biggest gun. And also all of our allies that we're also going to make sure have the biggest gun. Like, it's basically trying to use the language of political science, I suppose. It's supposed to try to use the language of social sciences to promote imperialism, to continue to continue promoting imperialism. You need a dog. I've got 3 cats. I have 3 cats. I think I have enough. Dogs for the revolution. The thing about cats. Well, we have to have the American Hammer, not to answer the door. Yep. I yeah, I don't know. I honestly I feel like that was I mean, World War II had a lot of horrific stuff, but the omnipolar Americanization of world politics is certainly up there with the least fun. Like, people forget the US was nothing less than 100 years ago. US domination of our, international space is less than 100 years old. No, you need a dog for door answering duty. Oh, yeah. Hands, yeah, I get ya. It's all right. I knew you were saying something and I was like, yeah, I'll get it eventually. Eventually I'll get it. Eventually I'll get it. I am just telling you right now, I am loving this new mic so much. I can't even tell you. And this new camera, like the whole setup. You guys, thank you so much. Every single time I look at it, I'm just like, because all the donations, because everyone went out and bought me the camera, the donations that I used for the webcam donation I used to get the mic instead. So you got me both of these, really. And it has just made my whole setup so much more streamlined. Like it's all tucked away. It's not in the middle. It's not taking up all this space anymore. I should show you my new setup. It's freaking awesome. It's freaking awesome. And it's all thanks to you guys. Anyway, back to the program.
Being sold to me as a relatively uninformed person, it still didn't make any
I'm
sense.
glad you're glad.
There's some conflict going on between two peoples in some far off place, and you're telling me that one side is worth supporting over the other, but that side seems to be the one responsible for the majority of civilian deaths,
Yeah.
responsible for the majority of the destruction. And I can see their military committing war crimes, and I can see their civilians cheering those war crimes on. If I'm expected to support Israel because of some superior values,
One thing I will say though is that it is unusual for hypocrisy to be the thing that alerts people to issues like this. I know it sounds strange, but people will often dismiss hypocrisy in these sort of like team chat, teams thing. It's not that, but that's how people treat international politics. So that's what we're referring to it as. Okay.
supposedly holds, it has not been acting the part, has it? You can't claim moral superiority when asking for support, but then moral
I hope Okay, sorry, there was a total glitch there, so we're gonna have to go back a little bit. I do apologize for what just happened.
Civilian
What's
deaths,
going on?
responsible for the majority of the destruction. And I can see
Here
their
we go.
military committing war crimes, and I can see their civilians cheering those
Here we
war
go.
crimes on. If I'm expected to
Yeah, no,
support Israel
exactly.
because of some superior values it supposedly holds, it has not been acting the part, has it? You can't claim moral
Well,
superiority when asking for support, but then moral equivalence to excuse your crimes. My understanding of the conflict evolved as I've seen in the news and online several more rounds of violence play out in Palestine. I've been absolutely
I
furious
think
several
what's
times
important
now.
to remember though for context as well, and why I think in terms of talking about the Israel-Palestine conflict, I don't actually think talking about Hamas's calls for the death of the Jewish people to be helpful, not because I don't think it's relevant necessarily, but because that's got a lot more to do with the Iran US conflict. Like Iran are also trying to wage a conflict through Hamas. And so whenever we start talking about Hamas and when people try and, you know, like Iran is who we really should be talking about in that respect. You know what I mean? Like I'm not apologizing. I'm not apologizing for Hamas in any way, shape, or form. But I am saying that Hamas is a product of Netanyahu and Iran more than it is a product of the people of Gaza. Does that make sense? I just think you don't tend to have Palestinians lining up cheering on the death of Israelis the same way you have Israeli citizens lining up cheering on the death of Palestinians. No, it's a fundamental to that section of a belief structure. I'm not talking Palestinians, but there has got to be something that says we will not call for systemic violence. In a wider audience, you do have that. I I guess and I guess the problem is as well when you know more about the conflict. Like when you know more about the conflict, it becomes more understandable why conversations around about Hamas are not necessarily relevant to what's happening in Palestine right now. Like I know that sounds counterintuitive given what happened on October 7th seemed to be an explosive, but October 7th was a response in itself as well. And I'm not excusing what happened on October 7th. I'm just saying that, you know, we've seen Israel now retaliate because they've bombed the heck out of Gaza. We've now seen them retaliate by conducting uh terrorist related activity on Iranian soil. I'm just saying that what is happening in Palestine, yeah. Response all the way down, though, the people that blame is the British and the Americans. It's I would say it's the British, the Americans, and the Iranians. Like I'm not going to let the Iranians off the hook with this one. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're completely like no. Nah, they're doing the same thing that Russia did during the first Cold War. This is our second Cold War, where they are using proxy states to fight their wars and using innocent people and creating all of this tension and especially racial tension and religious tension in order to get a particular reaction that they want. They absolutely bear some responsibility in this. If we go down the line, we're looking at the US, Iran, and the UK. Like that's who we should be blaming for all of this. Absolutely. Which is why I really don't think that conversations about Hamas are that helpful in all honesty. Yeah, it's the remade Ottoman Empire, two sides of another region. Yeah, exactly. No, you're okay. You're okay. Israel cannot and will never stop until death of the Jews is off the cards. But that isn't coming. That's what I mean, is that they're targeting Palestine for Iran's actions in a proxy war. That's why I don't think really the discussions about the calls from certain Arabic states that have said death to all Jews, I don't agree with those statements at all, but I don't think that they are necessarily the most helpful in a conversation of what Israel is doing to Palestine. I just think Israel has, again, with its direct attack on Iran through attacking their Syrian embassy, they've shown they're capable of direct attack. Like, why are we still, like, it's gotten so much worse since that. Since that event, it's gotten so much worse in Palestine now. It's considered, like in Gaza, there is nowhere safe to go. There is nowhere safe to go. And much like the settlers were doing here, where they were poisoning bags of flour, we're seeing aid trucks being used as people starving to death, running for aid trucks to try and get food, being gunned down as they run for the aid trucks, choosing between being shot or starving. It doesn't matter what anyone's saying, like as but that's the issue. Until there is somewhere else for Jewish people to be safely, they ain't going to move. I disagree with the idea that there needs to be a Jewish state. I know it's controversial. But I disagree. No, but I don't think, what I think is interesting here is that, again, the same way that our fear of crime is used to perpetuate the police state, the fear of the other is being used to perpetuate tensions in the Middle East, which serve the interests of the imperialist nations. Because I don't actually think that the fear would exist. I don't even think the hatred would exist as much as it did if it wasn't for the outstanding work of the likes of Biden and Netanyahu, honestly. It's all just to serve imperial powers. Yeah, they did need to be accepted, and the problem is, though, is that they didn't want that. They wanted a state. And the idea that they... Yeah, I just I don't know. Wouldn't be any if there wasn't any silly God bothering. Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly, which is another reason why I just think that the whole idea of religion is a waste of time. But yeah, but I would say that I can understand why in this particular, well, I do, later on he does go into the back and forth a bit, but I do understand why not necessarily in this particular section, and also why necessarily doesn't hit it as heavy as he does talk about what's happening or what the IDF are doing as much. But the more I look at it, the worse it's all going to become. I think what is really interesting, though, is the Jewish people outside of Israel largely completely disagree with what's going on. Like, a lot of the ones who agree with it are in the US and are, you know, outside of Israel and the US. There's the Jewish community by and large is completely disapproving. I know that the Jewish community here is, they meet weekly. The Jewish community meet weekly about the in solidarity with Palestine. I think the thing is that most people most people who there are massive schisms in Jewish beliefs. Yeah, no, I do. I understand that. I absolutely do understand that. But I know that there are there is a large portion of the Jewish community who stand with Palestine on this. Um, Especially if you follow, I mean, if you can still stand to be on Twitter. I know not many can these days. But there are a lot of prominent Jewish leaders on the Twitter app, whatever it's called these days, in particular, who have uh spoken out quite a lot about it, about the aboutness of it all. Um, and yeah, I'm sure that in sort of more, yeah, yeah, and I know that, like, for example, there are as an ultra orthodox group in Melbourne who I know spoke out against what's happening over in Palestine. But again, there's an ultra orthodox group in the US who keep decrying the Palestinian people and saying that no Jewish person in the state of Israel will be safe until they're all completely wiped out. So that's what I'm talking about with places also. Like, it's not just about religion, it is also about nationalism. It's also about geopolitical context that shapes a person's belief and identity. Because, as I said, there are ultra orthodox Jewish people in this country who feel that what's happening in Palestine is disgusting, and there are ultra orthodox people in the US who feel the exact opposite. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, yeah, and I think, but I think people don't pay as much attention to the way that your country's view of international politics and internet and geopolitics, their place, sorry, in geopolitics. I don't think people pay enough attention to how that shapes our national identity, which is why I call myself a constructivist. Because in constructivism, we take the idea that a country's identity and its people's idea of who they are is also going to structure and shape the way they interact in the international sphere. And you can see it particularly whenever you have an American Chinese, a US Chinese, uh, you know, trade coup, trade argument, trade battle, trade war. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. You can see the way these differing ideologies come into play in the way they handle it. And there's a reason that China always comes out on top in these negotiations. And it's because of the cultural identity that they have as a people. Yeah, same with everybody else. Exactly. Yeah. Have you seen Moonhaven? I have not. I have not. I'm not familiar with Moonhaven. Then again, I'm really bad at remembering names. So it's one of those things, again, I could have seen and will remember it upon having my memory jogged, but no, would not have any clue what you were talking about otherwise. Ah, I know it's hard because I've spent a long time shaping my views about particularly international geopolitics. It's been a very long time. It's been uh, so let's press play on this though. Shall we? Shall we? I don't know. Let's do it. Come on. Come on, Sean. Start talking to us. Why aren't you talking to us, Sean?
Past few years. For instance, when Israel targeted civilian areas with airstrikes in 2021, including attacking the offices of the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, a children's medical charity who I was raising money for at the time.
Don't forget that they're able to do
organizes
all of
free medical
this.
care for children, and Israel's military hit them with an airstrike. Also infuriating was the assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh in
Oh gosh, come on.
2022, a prominent Palestinian-American journalist for Al
Why is
Jazeera.
Sean not listening to me anymore? The attack on the hospital, those precise attacks, you can thank the Pino Clean Centre operating out of the Australian outback for that too. Yeah, I never did any of it till I started talking to Jewish people about what world felt like for them, and it's just not simple. No,
who was
it's
intentionally
not.
shot and murdered by an Israeli.
But again, I think again having an identity myself that has been politicized from a very, very, as I said, from a very young age, and knowing from a very young age, what it could mean for me if, that other people could decide things about my life based on an aspect of my identity I had no control over. And so I had to hide a part of myself in order to protect myself from those judgments people were making about my people, me and my people. I can understand that absolutely, and feeling like, you know, uh, like I just got to be honest. I got to be honest right now. In this situation where we are talking about Israel and Palestine, I am not talking about, because in general, in like the context of Australia, Jewish people are, it's similar to my experience where you are a minority in a much larger organism fighting for what you need and to have your needs met and to have your identity accepted and appreciated and not judged and not deal with racism and all that. Like I can empathize with all of that. But when you go into a situation, like if we were to take it into a situation where the Indigenous people in this country had nuclear missiles that could directly target children's hospitals, specifically targeting white kids in order to get all of the white people out of Australia. And this is a context where it was our home first before the invasion happened. I still would not be saying that Indigenous people in the US would be cheering that on necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Though they might. But I don't actually think they would. I don't actually think they would. I don't, that's what I mean. I think there is a big difference between what is happening in the context of Israel and Gaza and Palestine, that does actually make it a lot less complex. Because while I can understand the feeling of being, targeted, systemically targeted, I can understand that feeling of being systemically targeted. You're not talking about a guerrilla group who's armed themselves to fight back against their oppressor. They are the oppressor in this context. And they can sit there and say that, like, it's like the US with the Red Scare. Like, we have to fight in Vietnam and destroy their homeland and tear them apart so that it doesn't come here, and like we're doing it defensively. Like that's kind of, yeah. Exactly. And I think that's the thing, is that in this context, Israel is the aggressor. It's not a matter of, okay, they need to have certain assurances made first. It's no, they have to stop first. They have to stop. They have to stop. And then we got to fucking sort this shit the fuck out, because this is, we can't keep having this shit go on. But yeah, but I would definitely say that anyone at this point who's saying it's too complicated to, just they're also ignoring the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is one of the biggest funders of Hamas. Like, you can't tell me that Benjamin Netanyahu is one of the biggest. Anyway.
Defense Forces sniper. And that murder really is beyond dispute, as investigations have conclusively proven that was a targeted killing of someone clearly marked as a member of the press. She was deliberately shot in the head. Israel repeatedly lied about the incident, blaming it on Palestinian gunmen, blaming it on crossfire from a non-existent battle, trying to get away with saying it was an accident, and so on. These were all blatant lies which were later disproven. Lies to cover up a murder which has still not been punished. The disruption of Abu Akla's funeral by Israeli police officers who attacked her pallbearers with batons is one of the absolute worst things I have ever seen happen. I really can't condemn this in stronger terms. More than anything I've seen happen in my life, I think it made me ashamed to be human. I don't believe anyone can actually lose their humanity through acts of depravity and cruelty, but this is as close as I have ever seen anyone come. Even with the context of having seen several
Yeah.
rounds of violence play out, the scale of the current conflict has been overwhelmingly depressing to see. Like a lot of people, I've been watching social media and the news with horror as the body count climbs and the scale of the destruction becomes apparent. I've seen Western politicians drag their heels and lie to defend Israel. I've been worrying about the situation spilling out into a wider war. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed, and I honestly felt shocked and numb to a lot of what was going on for quite a while. When seeing things like
No,
this,
no,
it's tempting to.
no, sorry, I wasn't. Sorry, Kim, I wasn't suggesting that you were. No, sorry. Sorry, I just saw your chat then. No, yeah. I see that's the thing I don't agree. I don't get how we get past the kill all of X on either side because they are both doing it. They're not both doing it though. See, the difference is what we're talking about is everyday Israeli citizens making a game of hunting down and killing individual Palestinians. The language of death to the Jews is coming from Islam, is coming from Iran and Hamas. It isn't coming from the Palestinian people. That's what I mean by the kill all of X on either side. They're not both doing it. That's exactly what I'm saying. They're not both doing it. You don't have videos of Palestinian kids joking about how many Israeli kids they've killed. You have videos of Israeli kids laughing about hunting down and killing Palestinian kids. Like, ad break. Um, yeah, I think it's one of these things as well. And people say, like the example of the teacher in the classroom, show respect for me and I'll show respect for you. When what they mean is you treat me with respect and like defer to you, and defer to me, and you like treat me with the utmost of respect, and I'll give you basic humanity. And that's their treat me with respect and I'll treat you with respect. Then they're not talking about the same level of respect. And I feel like um, I feel like it's a bit the same with this, where it's like, yeah, how do we get everyone to behave? I really do think that there needs to be a change of leadership in Israel for a start. There needs to be a change of leadership. I also think there needs to be a change of leadership in the US. I don't think that a Biden-led America is going to stop what's happening because he would have by now. And the has stepped in the what it is doing now. Yeah, I feel I don't know. I feel it's a bit sickening, to be honest, isn't it? Really? Like, it's just a little bit sickening. Oh, my just blinked at me. Yeah, but I definitely think, like, because the US is funding this war, Australia, like, it's a proxy war. It needs some communism, absolutely. No, and I do definitely think that, again, it's the US and it's little bitch Australia who are the leading cause of all the fucking problems. Because once again, once again, we are what am I trying to do? Why isn't this work? Oh, here we go. Forgot what I was saying. Oh, I got distracted and I forgot what I was saying, and I was on such a good roll. Fucking hell. What was I saying? Anyway, let's just play on Sean again while I remember.
Throw up your hands and give in to
Welcome to my
despair
existence.
if
Yeah,
such a thing is
ADHD and
possible.
autism.
There's a desire to feel nothing rather than trying to reckon with the reality of thousands of children being killed while you
Yeah.
sit there feeling helpless.
Yeah.
However, there were two things I saw that jolted me out of the numb state I was in. The first was a poem by Palestinian poet Khaled Juma titled "O Rascal Children of Gaza," written in 2014 in response to the violence of that year.
The numbness that Sean talks about, I gotta say, it definitely feels like, yeah, it definitely feels like I be feeling that. You know what I mean? Not all the time. Like, I don't mean like I'm necessarily feeling it right now, but I will say it is hard not to feel numb when you're seeing all of this death and destruction constantly and you feel so powerless and you know. The thing is too is you know that in 50 years it's going to be the sort of thing that kids learn about in school and they're going to be horrified to hear about, and you're going to be sitting there going, yeah, God. So much more horrifying now that we know more, and it was horrifying enough at the time with all that we knew, really, you know? Ah.
The same violence those Israeli civilians on the hill were cheering for. In this poem, the writer first seems to complain about the rascal children of Gaza who are loud and rambunctious.
This poem always gets me a bit emotional. I'm pretty sure Sean reads it out, so I'm not going to, but or should I? I don't know. Should I do my best? Yeah, it'll be taught like World War II was. And I mean, like, it is, people are now saying, the first Cold War, because people are referring to this as the second Cold War. Yeah. And around and around and around we go, making terrorists out of children, throwing stones at people with guns pointed at them. I know, but just that line as well where he says, come back, just come back, just come back. Like, oh, rascal children of Gaza, who constantly disturbed me with your screams under my window, you who filled every morning with Russian chaos, you who broke my vase and stole my lonely flower from my balcony, come back and scream as you want and break all the vases, steal all the flowers. Come back, just come back. Like that. Hey, you're back. Hello. We missed you terribly also. Thank you. Thank you. I'm adjusting the background a little bit still. I haven't got it 100% schmick. Obviously, the contrast isn't right on the chat, but I'm working on it. Little bit. Yeah, communism is the answer and everything else is a half measure. But this poem breaks my heart because it's one of those things that I think about constantly when I think about my own kids, and I think about all the times I get annoyed at them and about how one day they're not going to be there. And I know it's not the same because they're not dead, but I will say that
As children.
I have had moments where I wasn't sure if my children were going to be okay or not. And I have certainly, had the thought when my kid got rushed into surgery once that might be it. And that was a lot. But even just thinking about my kids growing up and not being here harassing me anymore, making a mess of my house makes me feel sad.
They broke his vase and stole
Hey.
his flower and constantly disturb him with their shouts and screams. But then the poem concludes with a plea for them to come back and be as loud and chaotic and disruptive as they like. And this poem really affected me because I have the exact same experience of being irritated at the rascal children of my neighborhood, who are always playing loudly outside my house and whose shouts and games get picked up on my microphone when I'm trying to stream or record audio. And how this poem starts out from a place of annoyance with the local children just dropped me right into the poet's perspective.
Yeah.
It made me think about how I'd feel if it were my neighborhood being hit with airstrikes and the children local to my area being killed. The next thing I saw that really got to me was a video of a young Palestinian boy celebrating getting to
Oh, this
1,000
boy.
subscribers on YouTube and talking about future milestones he wants to hit. Just a young kid wanting to make videos on the internet and entertain people. He was killed by the Israeli military in October. And this felt very personal to me as well, because that's what I do. I remember being excited when I first hit 1,000
Yeah.
subscribers. That boy should have got to grow up safe. And it's not fair. It's not fair that he didn't get the chance to grow up and that he was murdered.
I think the hardest thing as well with a lot of the discussion that we have is that the numbers are so huge and so, I think, unimaginable, really, honestly. So we just don't believe it on some respect. I feel like in some respect we actually just don't believe that it's as bad as all this, you know? Sorry, Em, we are talking about the most depressing of topics today. Uh Hi. I'm still doing some tweaking to this background, but yeah, we can't measure past hundreds. And so when you do see individuals, it sort of does make it a lot more real. Um, but yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. And when you talk about the fact that nearly, 40% of the casualties in Palestine have been children, um, I just don't know. It's hard to hold it in your brain as reality. It's really hard to figure the empathy of it because it's brain breaking. I'm glad you figured time and space to give airtime to this. No need for apologizing. It's the reality of the world right now. It is. And I think the hardest thing is, and like Sean sort of says, is that you can feel so overwhelmed, but we have to, again, as I said, we have to remember that we are complicit. Like this is being done by the US and Australia. These are US bombs. Australia is shipping munitions as well as other supplies to Israel. Their ultra targeted weapons are thanks to the work being done at Pine Gap, the Pino Clean facility in the middle of the desert here in our country. So we are complicit, and history is going to judge us. History is going to judge us, I think, rather cruelly. Cruelly.
And he's just one kid, remember. Thousands of children have been killed in Gaza in the past few months. Here he is
Yeah.
with his brothers and sisters, all of whom were also killed by the Israeli military. And reading about this boy, I felt like I got a glimpse at just a small portion of the sheer cruel pointlessness of it all, and I broke down and cried. Everyone has their own way of empathizing with situations like this, I suppose. I don't have children myself, but how many parents have seen Palestinian parents mourning their children and
Yeah.
imagined how they would feel if it was happening to their family?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm shaken out of my stupor and feel
That
compelled
is
to say something about the
very much
situation in
what it
Gaza.
feels like,
But
to be
what can
honest.
I say? What could I make a YouTube video about here? I hope nobody blames me for feeling inadequate to the task. I'm obviously not going to solve the Israel Palestine conflict with a YouTube video, am I? And it feels like there's nothing I can say that thousands of dead civilians shouldn't be able to. Are there people out there who are not
Yeah, that
swayed
kind
by
of feels a
thousands of
bit.
murdered children, but who will shift their opinion based upon what a guy with a YouTube channel tells them? And if there are, why is that? Every angle I can think of to write about Gaza feels incomplete. I could debunk some of the lies coming out of
Which
Israel's
again, you can
government and
understand.
military, but honestly, the lies are so poor and perfunctory
Like,
that
it
it
just
feels
feels
almost
so
perverse in a way.
overwhelming.
The problem for me with simply countering the excuses coming out of Israel about why the IDF just has to kill so many children is that there's no circumstance in which dropping bombs on children is okay. It cannot be right to do what they're
Yeah.
doing under any circumstances, no matter what they say, no matter the
No,
excuse,
it's
and no
not.
matter
There
what
isn't.
came before. It does not matter what Hamas have ever
Yeah,
done.
the
It does not
impotence.
matter what any Palestinian has ever done. It does not matter if
Yep.
everything the IDF says is the God's honest
Yep, that's
truth,
the
or if
thing. It's
every
all
word of it is a
education.
lie. I could spend my
Absolutely.
time debunking everything the IDF has ever said to justify their actions in the current conflict, and not a word of it would matter at all either way with regards to whether or not it's okay to kill 10,000 children. You don't get to do that ever. With that said, I suppose we can do a
Yeah.
little of it, if only to demonstrate how easy it is and to prevent people from saying that it can't be done. So on November 13th, in a video shared to Twitter, which bizarrely has not yet been deleted, IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari shared a video purporting to show proof that Hamas was operating out of the basement of Al
Yeah.
Rantisi Hospital
This is
in Gaza.
ridiculous.
This proof included a terrorist sign-in sheet.
This list in Arabic, this list says we are in an operation. The operation against Israel started in the 7th of October. This is a Guardian list where every terrorist writes his name and every terrorist has his own shift.
Now, as people who can read Arabic were very quick to point out, this is not a list of terrorist signatures written by terrorists clocking in for their terror shifts. This
Yeah.
is a wall calendar, and the words written in the boxes are the days of the week. I particularly like this outraged tweet from author Aviva Klompus, who reposts the lie in the video before saying, "Every name on this list is a dead man walking."
Yep.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Mon-
Next, also in November,
Monday,
Israel's
Tuesday,
official Arabic
Wednesday,
Twitter account shared a
Thursday.
video of someone claiming to be a nurse inside Al Shifa Hospital in Gaza, accusing Hamas of stealing fuel and medical supplies. And she also
Yeah,
encouraged residents of the
it
area
definitely
to flee.
does. It definitely does. The first major conflict Australia's been involved in where the dissemination of information hasn't been so entirely controlled by the mainstream media landscape. But like, for example, this example right here that he's about to give is a really good example of one of the people who has been spreading misinformation online about it, though.
In Gaza, accusing Hamas of stealing fuel and medical supplies. And she also encouraged residents of the area to flee.
Ya Allah, I can't believe I'm doing this. But the world has to know what Hamas is making here. They're taking over the entire hospital. They're taking over the fuel, the medicine.
Like, listen to the bombs in the background.
Arabic
How
speakers
suspicious
familiar
they
with accents
sound.
of the region were quick to point out that the person in the video
Vietnam was
does
mainstream,
not
but they
sound like
didn't
a
want them
Palestinian.
there.
But obviously,
Yeah.
I'm not able to verify that independently. I do not speak Arabic, but there are a few other things in the video we can notice that are a little strange.
Yeah.
Firstly, she claims Hamas stole the fuel, but the lights in the hospital are still on.
Yeah.
Their coat, mask, and gloves are immaculately clean for an overcrowded hospital in a war zone.
Yeah.
She's wearing differently coloured clothes.
It's just
and
so
gloves and has a differently
obvious.
coloured stethoscope to medical staff in other videos shot in the hospital. She has blue gloves, whereas they all have white coloured ones. She has a red stethoscope, while they all have dark coloured ones. She's ostensibly speaking to a Palestinian audience,
she's speaking in
doing so
English.
in English. She doesn't react at all to the loud explosion sounds in the background and speaks fluently over them. Nothing in the room moves or rattles in response to the loud explosion sounds. All of the loud explosion sounds sound exactly the same, as if it is actually just one sound file that has been added
What do
multiple
you
times
know?
in editing.
Sus,
Something which
sus,
later
sus.
audio analysis confirmed
Sus,
to be true.
sus.
Here, they're taking over the entire hospital. I had without morphine. Because run away. Don't stay here.
None of the thousands of other people present in the hospital at the time can be heard in the background. Even though she has a face mask, she chooses to show her face, which I cannot imagine she would do if she was actually snitching on terrorists operating in the same hospital she works in. And this last one is just a personal opinion, of course, but her acting is shite. And she seems unused to wearing a hijab also. She keeps fiddling with it awkwardly, but that's just a possibility, that one. Anyway, all of that is moot because after this video came out, of course, people just asked the staff at Al Shifa Hospital if they knew who she was, and they said, no, we have no idea who that is. So That's that anyway. Fake news. Next, on November 9th,
really
the Arab
frustrating.
media spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister's
I'm going to
office,
upload
a
my new
chap called
background while we're
Ophir
doing this. Hang
Gendelman,
on.
tweeted a video claiming to show Palestinians in Gaza faking their injuries for propaganda purposes. Gendelman says the Palestinians are fooling the international media and public opinion. Don't fall for it. See for yourselves how they fake injuries and evacuating injured civilians all in front of the cameras. And if we watch that video, we do see an incident that appears to have been staged for the cameras. We can see people being directed how to move as if they are actors. We can see a makeup artist applying makeup to a child, and that child later posing happily for the camera while covered in fake blood. So what's going on here then? Have we uncovered some insidious Palestinian plot to fool world opinion by faking videos of injured children? No, this is a film set. This is a behind-the-scenes video from the set of a Lebanese short film. It seems staged because it is, and they seem like actors because they are, because it's a movie. The cynicism of this one is really quite something. Someone who was aware they were lying the whole time, remember, took the behind-the-scenes footage from a film set and falsely claimed it to be currently happening in Gaza in order to make people think Palestinian children injured by the IDF are actors faking their injuries, which is just pure evil. Now, there's more to report on than we have time for here. There's the 3D animation of the huge Bond villain tunnel network apparently under
everyone remember the
Al-Shifa
tunnels?
Hospital, which completely
Does
failed to
everyone remember the
materialize
fucking
after
tunnel?
the IDF gained access
Okay,
to the hospital.
hang on. I got
There's
to
the
pause
clearly
again. One
faked
sec.
audio
One sec.
intercepts of bumbling terrorists admitting to
Does everyone remember the fucking tunnels that they could not find? Like, this is what I'm talking about. And we just forget it and move on. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that most people won't be swayed by hypocrisy, because we know that all of this is bullshit. We know all of this has been going on. And yet you still have people defending the IDF. You still have, because pointing out the hypocrisy really doesn't seem to do it for them. It doesn't seem to be enough to wake them up. It's like talking to people who are in a cult, you know? For some reason, being, I don't know, like the hypocrisy, they've just got so many, I don't know. They can make so many excuses. So many excuses. Anyway, sorry. I'm just getting myself frustrated over nothing now, aren't I? Well, not over nothing, obviously. Not over nothing. Like, I'm not getting myself frustrated over nothing. But it's that people who can't be woken up just by being simply shown the hypocrisy. You've got to dig so much deeper. Closely followed by the cult of their society's religious narrative. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that's part of the problem when it comes to Israel, is so much of it is also tied up in the idea of the Jewish people coming home to Jerusalem as part of Christian mythology as well. It's just that fucking, it's so gross. So gross. Makes me frustrated. Anyway, not much I can do about it, is it? I think that the thing that we try to do as well, the thing that we try to do where we educate people, we talk about this stuff, like, it is good. Like I said, I've had people who've reached out to me and who've said to me, yeah, like the way that you talk about things, the way you explain things has helped me to think about these things deeper, because sometimes it is a matter of just not having a particular point of view maybe highlighted before, and that's why you haven't thought harder about something. You know, it doesn't really occur to you until someone points it out to you in a different way, which, like, that's fine. Like, I can get that. I can understand that. But what I find frustrating is that even when you do that continually, you'll still have people who just cannot, or who will, they're not at least honest about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like that gun rant from What's His Face. Just admit you just want guns. Just admit that what it is you actually just want guns. Because because that makes more sense to me than, oops, sorry, my background just changed with no warning. I was hoping to give you guys some warning before it did that, but no. There we go. We're getting bigger. We're moving some things around. Anyway, nothing wrong with admitting you want guns. And that's the thing, is just admit it. Just be honest. Just be honest about whatever bullshit thing it is that you're peddling. That's all I ask. Just be honest about whatever bullshit thing that it is that you're peddling. Be honest about the fact that you want guns. Be honest about the fact that you have some fucked up faith that tells you that if the Christians, if the Jews retake the Holy Land, your God's going to come back and bring us Armageddon. Okay, right. At least if you're honest about what it is that you're actually rooting for, we can honestly be like, okay, no, that's fucked. Okay, but it's the people who keep lying and pretending that that's not what they're after, or that they're not like just gung-ho for the death of citizens because of their own twisted. Like, it's the same with ScoMo. ScoMo genuinely, and this is why I just don't think that necessarily Christian people should be prime minister either, just FYI. But I don't have to do anything about climate change because God's going to fix it. And if I'm the sort of person who believes that God's going to fix it, why should I be left in charge of a country where part of my job is fixing shit? Because I think that I think I've got an imaginary friend that I think is going to fix it. Like, I'm locking these all in place just because I feel like we've got a good rough. Here we go. Oh, alrighty. How's that? Magic happening imminently. Yeah, nothing wrong with admitting you want guns. And that's the thing that bothers me about so much of this discourse is if you're just going to be like, the reason they won't be honest is because they understand on some fundamental level that but I just want guns, or but I just want God to bring about the imminent destruction of Palestine so that Armageddon can happen. It's fucked. They know that it's fucked. They can't admit that that's what they really believe because they know that's a fucked thing to believe. So they lie to us. Yo, where my vegans at? Morally superior vegan. Thanks for joining us today. But that's what really fucks me off about the whole thing is that they can't be honest, because if they're honest, then why is pre-roll off? I don't know why pre-roll is off. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway. All them legumes. Gotta love the legumes. Where my legume munches at? Like, represent. Here's my question though. Morally superior vegan. Would you eat crickets? Insects, the protein of the future. Just saying. This is a discussion worth having, and I've not seen many vegans willing to have it. Insects aren't vegan. What? Don't think we have a bean emoji. No. Crickets are delicious. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Honestly. There you go. You heard it here from Morally Superior Vegan. Crickets, insects aren't vegan. It's the official word on it. All right. Let's go back to the other side. No, they're not. Keep your weird kinks over there.
Whatever the IDF is accusing them of that day. This is all pointless, remember,
Blame
with regards
Jojo
to
for my
whether it's
confidence in
okay
believing
to
I
murder
can
children anyway.
All right. Well, we're talking about murdering children again. We're about to go to ad break in 60 seconds. Oi! I didn't mean to do that. Switch back. There we go. That's the Wednesday outline. Woo! It's the right one. So we're going to go to ads. We're going to have a bit of a break. We're going to have some Bone Cone bonus content for those of you who are subs. Hang out for a little bit of the Bone Cone bonus content. You can have your weird crickets kink. I'll stick to my beans, thanks. Hey, I bought some beans yesterday and I went to bed last night dreaming of having beans on toast for breakfast this morning. I haven't had them yet still. Haven't had my beans on toast yet still. But we are going to be getting back to watching some more of Sean's video on Palestine after the break. We aren't going to watch the whole thing, but yeah, we'll be back shortly. And time for the bonus content for those of you who do not have to put up with ads. I have to park in the garage with no reception for 5 minutes and miss some good stuff. What? No. I'm going to make some beans on toast. First, I'm going to go put the kettle on so I can make another coffee. But yes, definitely beans on toast is happening. You guys can hear me when I step on the computer, can't you? You can all hear me. There's my pants that I was making yesterday, Emery. I have to show them to you. And I'm going to take it off. Yeah, but we'll put Sean back on in a sec. We were just debating with the beans. I do think it's funny. That now the vegan can see us. Show me the pants. Okay. Ad break and movement time, people. Yes. So here are the pants. So you can't, then I have to turn them in the right way. And I just have to finish. So I've got to finish the waistband, getting that on and getting these on. Once I've done that, they're done. So I could actually probably put them on for you and model them if you like. Maybe I'll save that. I'll save that for book club later. I'm going to finish them before book club. We got 33 seconds left, people. Let me get my beans out. My beans, Rita. Do you know how many people like my beans? Seriously ask the question, what is it with Aussies and baked beans? Like, do Aussies really have baked beans around the place all the time? Like, do other places not have baked beans? Do other places not have baked beans? How awful that other places don't get the magic of beans. And we're back. Thank you all so much for joining us. Oh, what's going on? I've been rubbing my head against the back of the chair while I've been talking. This is why I have to tie my hair up when I stream so I don't wreck my hair. But like Americans being like, what is it? Because it was about the Grannies episode of Bluey. It was all the Americans being like, what's going on with fucking baked beans? Slut pants. Yes. Slut pants are for everyone. Non-gendered slut pants. Non-gendered slut pants. Ugh. I thought that was something in my tooth, but it's on my lip. I'm like, what is that? Nothing. I'm imagining things. It's fine. Woo! Now, I love it. I am so productive. It's and heart. Cause I can do it with a broken heart. I cry a lot, but I am so productive. Yeah. I have got some lovely Turkish bread for book club later. I've got some lovely snacks. I even got myself a little drinky poo. I know that it's not, not everyone drinks, but I just thought, for book club, I'd get a little drinky poo for later, a little pina colada. And we'll just do chapter 1 of our book for book. Cowboys ate beans constantly. Yeah, and yet they don't still eat them though. Like, I'm not saying they never had beans, but they're like, why are you all still buying beans? You're not all still cowboys. I was surprised by how many people had questions about the beans. Was yeah. There's a song about that drink. No, that everyone else in society does eat beans, but the boring white folk, because that poor people food. Yeah, I suppose that's it. Yeah, it's poor people food. It's only for us povos. Because they don't understand how good it is. Oh, beans on toast with a bit of parmesan. Now we're talking. I have beans. Like right now I'm just having beans with parmesan, no toast. Baked beans. It's my beans, Rita. It's my beans. Oh, rich people in the UK don't eat. Wow. I suppose that's the thing is I'm so unaware of upper class behavior. Like, it just didn't seem like a class thing to me because I'm like, what? Everyone has baked beans. Like, Oh. They need some Frenching, do they? All caviar all the time. Did you see that TikTok where that woman was literally just like the worst time? So good. She was talking at the Dollar Tree, the worker at the Dollar Tree. Because they're a shithole. The little French. Did you see that TikTok involving tea bags and microwave?
Anyway, I have to say that because
It honestly makes me feel like I'm going to vomit when people microwave tea. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Boil a pot of water on the stove. Boil a pot of water on the stove then. Why microwaving? That's just gross. Stop that. No.
simply make a top 10 IDF lies debunked video would be to take one side in an argument which I do not believe should even be occurring. Regardless of what the IDF says, what it is doing, the whole thing is wrong. The frustrating thing is that I want to believe that we should know this by now. We being humans in general, I guess. This argument should not be happening. One of the main things I've been feeling is that these events feel out of time. The retaliatory punishment of civilians, the targeting and destruction of civilian infrastructure, the sheer extent of intentional civilian deaths and injuries, and the justifications we see offered for all of this, they seem like things that should only be read about in history books. I've read in history books
No.
about some of the atrocities committed by colonial empires against the people they were colonizing. And what was done and how it was justified will seem very familiar to anyone looking at the current situation
It's
in
exactly
Palestine.
what we were talking
This
about
sort
earlier.
of thing should not be happening now. The rhetoric used to excuse it is extremely out of date. We know this is wrong, and yet it is still happening, right? Governments that
Exactly
profess
why
to know
history
that this is wrong are nevertheless supporting,
look a lot harsher on
funding, and
us.
arming it. Certainly.
Which is why history is going to look a lot harsher on us than it will do previous genocides as well, because we have the knowledge, we have access to the information, we know what's happening, and we're still allowing it to happen. Like, anyone who sort of sits there and goes, oh, what you're supposed to do, right? We had a hard time even getting our government to call for a fucking ceasefire, you know? But they're still sending their gear over there. They're still having support it. Oh. The pool was lovely, wasn't it? Did you want to talk about the time? Well, we could talk about the pool.
Liberals.
Everyone wants to know that you were reading their messages. Emery is a little bit of an attention hog. I'm not going to lie. Emery does like being the center of attention. I once went to a pool and it had a tide. Yes, that's it. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. I'm a slut for attention. Oh, you're just so lovely. It's so easy to rain attention on you. We don't dox the doxers. No. Hang on, words. I once went to a pool that had a tide in it as well. Bayswater, up in Bayswater in Perth. Slut for my attention. Doxer, what word is that? Doxia. I don't know. Maybe. Ah, one you went to was in the UK when you were 5. Yeah, they have them here. A kid drowned at the one at Bayswater Waves because they used to have a tunnel. They closed it down, but they used to have a tunnel that made like a wave you could practice surfing in. But yeah, then they just had the tide, the wave pool. Yeah, Wet and Wild on the Gold Coast. Yeah. All right, I'm going to press play on Sean's video again for a bit.
Claim to support freedom and equality for all are sitting on the fence and refusing to call this what it is.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Which is frustrating.
There is a worrying tendency to attempt to hide behind some claimed complexity of the history, as if it's simply too difficult to understand without a PhD in the history of the region, and thus who can really say if it's okay for the IDF to blow up all these children?
An annual pass.
Maybe there's
That's
some
pretty cool.
justification lurking in the very complicated history, who knows? This is just cowardice you hear from people who don't want to admit that they're not living up to the values they would like to think they hold. They'll condemn atrocities, but only in retrospect, once the bodies are buried and the historical consensus.
Yeah, this is the frustrating thing.
The history of Israel.
We're going to wait for the history books to tell us it was wrong, but no, in this instance, everyone's going to know. We can't pretend we didn't know. No, I've never been. Actually, where's my phone right now? Here we go. If I didn't never want to return to the void forsaken state, I'd take you personally. Yeah, I've never really had any interest in going. that? What is it? I got an alert. Oh, I know what that is. It's gonna be here by Friday. Huzzah! Why aren't we going? How do we do what? Hey, what? I remember when Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt closed the park down so them and their family could go. And I remember thinking at the time, why? Why? Oh, they ruined your whole holiday. It's 5 theme parks at a 30-kilometer rate. Yeah, I know, but I'm not really a theme park girly. The thing I like about Adventure World is that it's not really like a theme park. It's like you go instead of a picnic and there's a couple of dozen rides you go and play on with your mates. I don't know. I went in 96 and haven't been back. I mean, I guess it's probably changed since then, but yeah, I've never been. Yeah, see, look, I want to take my kids to Disneyland because of the Disneyland of it all. But yeah, I've never had the desire to take them. And again, they're getting to that age where I have to start thinking about, Tell me about your ideal day out then for no reason at all. No reason at all. Let's listen to some more of what Sean has to say about this issue.
And Palestine is complicated in one sense, in that a lot of things have happened, but morally the situation is not complex at all. And in fact, the more you learn about the history of the region, the less morally complex things become. The history of World War II is complicated. The history of human slavery is complicated. But the acts of genocide and slavery are not morally complex at all. And so it is with Israel and Palestine. I'm going to talk a little about the history of Israel and Palestine now, just to give some background to current events, but I would highly advise that you read The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi if you would like a more in-depth history from a Palestinian perspective. So, okay, if we're going to talk about the history of Israel and Palestine, first we need to talk about Zionism. Zionism, just reading the Wikipedia description for brevity,
getting
please
hardcore.
nobody tell H Bomber Guy, is a nationalist movement that emerged in the...
Please no one tell H Bomber Guy. This has become the greatest joke on the internet, H Bomber Guy's plagiarism video, honestly. I've been shafted like the football. Oh, awful. That does not sound great. I go fishing without any bait, and then no one annoys me, and I get to pack up a lunch, and I'm allowed to have a little fire pit in the beach. No one hurts a fish, and I get to read my book and watch the waves and take pictures. Oh, new best friend is now Kim. No worries. That easy, was it? That is a really, really lovely day. I think the thing is for me is it really depends on my mood. Because if I was going to pick like a day where I had to do whatever I wanted at all, it would start with me having a coffee and a cone in the garden. And then maybe listen to an audiobook while I did some sewing. Then maybe do some pottering around the garden and then some cooking maybe. But someone else would clean my house for me. That would be the ideal. Like someone else would have to clean my house for me at the end of the day. That's the only problem with my ideal day. It's very messy. I do like a good day of fishing, but I would take my book to read while someone else did the fishing. So we could do a team void outing. I'll bring my book, you bring your fishing line. Oh, friendship restored. That was easy. Oof. What's oof, Belle? What's oof? Just the friendship ending? Just the friendship ending? By the way, is the new layout, what are we thinking of the new layout? It's only a slight shift. I know it isn't much different. It feels different to me, but the friendship ending, yeah. I get it. It could be the indigenous in me coming out, but I'm a fan of fishing. I do a bit of fishing in my time, in my, you know. I'm a fan of the fishing. Yeah. And we're going to have to do a lot of fishing on the commune.
19th century
Good
to
source of
enable
food.
the establishment of a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. The father of modern
Oy.
political Zionism was Fyodor Herzl, an Austro-Hungarian journalist and political activist who was of the opinion that Jewish people needed to establish their own state, as he believed anti-Jewish sentiment would prevent Jewish assimilation into other states.
So that's what I mean. So a lot of this red coming from a place of fear. And I don't think is necessarily correct. And I think especially when you consider the fact that there are so many, like I was reading a meme. Oh, it's a meme. New comments. Why are my comments not working? Yeah, definitely colonial Europe's football people. Definitely. Meme. Everything I've been taught about how to read tells me it's meme. So I'm going to keep saying meme. I don't care that I'm wrong. I refuse to say meme. I refuse to say meme. Everything I know about how to read tells me it's meme. So meme it shall continue to be. I'll continue to call it. Classist. Stop being classist. T is cancelled. God, that was easy. No, because it's the fairy E, Belle. It's the fairy E, remember? It becomes a big E because of the fairy E. By the way, guys, what do you think of the new chat layout with the yelling of the usernames? Is that more helpful for chat purposes or what? What's the go? Because I can turn the names down a bit as well. Fuck all the fairy E's, they're all toxic for your brain. Yeah, the black background is definitely the winner for sure. I'm going to do that on all of them. We don't have to have the usernames that fucking large. It's just, in order for me to be able to see who's saying it, it's helpful. I find it helpful. Can you kill the icons? Unfortunately, I don't believe I can, on account of the program that actually creates the thing, puts them on there in order to be able to show me where they're coming from, what program they're coming from. Yeah, wasted space there. I'll see if I can make them smaller maybe. Like maybe I can make them so small you barely even know they're there. They just take up a space. Not 3 spaces. Bloody 3 spaces. Anyway, let's watch 7 more minutes of Sean before the next ad reel.
Early Zionism encompassed a broader range of positions than you see expressed today. Where should this Jewish state be?
So I will just say as well that I do have some experience with Zionism personally, because the cult that I was a part of was a splinter group from a Zionist movement. So they originally believed that the Jews were God's chosen people. Began preaching, it was to preach and tell the Jews that they were still God's chosen people. And anyway, they were a faction of a Zionist movement. Zionism does have a lot of different facets, a lot of different faces, a lot of different like you can't label all pro-Israeli Jews. You can't say that they are an expression of all Zionists, but proliferator of this idea that the Jews need a homeland of their own, a protected space. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that for now. Let's press play. Sorry.
And how should it
Rambling
be established?
Tamara.
Different locations were proposed. Theodor Herzl considered the possibility of creating a Jewish state in Argentina in South America. In 1903, the World Zionist Congress voted in favor of a proposal to create a Jewish state in British East Africa.
Does he mention the Australian
an area which
option?
roughly corresponds to modern-day Kenya. This plan ended up falling through in part because of the opposition of the white colonizers who were already on the land. They were like, we call dibs on this place.
We already colonized it. Sorry,
else.
yeah.
It's striking to a modern reader, reading in an age where the word colonization has various negative connotations, just how openly the early Zionist project was described in explicitly colonial terms.
Yeah, that's the thing people don't understand either, that this was no secret that this was a colonial project. Did it censor my message? It did. Oh, it did censor your message. Where is your message? I can't see it. The chat. I need to put the chat over the top of let me put the okay. Hide that. Sorry. Far out. I'm trying to keep my ads up on the thing so that I can actually see it. You know? Ramble more. I was enjoying it. So Restream didn't re-stream it. Save layout changes. There we go. Restream didn't seem to want to repost it, but I have also got this dashboard, my stream manager, because I've worked out I need it. I can't, unfortunately, I have to have 6 windows open to do this. But I am getting the hang of it. So that is now up there as well. All good. I'm just going to minimize this one a little bit. Okay, we're getting the hang of it. The sound keeps playing up for me. Anyone else? Don't tell me that. I just got the new microphone. It could be the echo cancellation though. Let me fix that. Let me turn that off again. Because I was messing with that earlier. Because I was mistaking the music playing. Let's see if that works. All right, let's see if that's better. I'm asking StreamYard to stop trying to interfere in my it's either the internet being a dick or the sound clipping. It could be both. It could be both. But the internet does seem to be looking particularly strong today, which is unusual. It's unusual. Alrighty. Alright, let's press play. Let me know if it keeps happening. I've got
Influential Zionist leader and author Zev Jabotinsky wrote an essay titled The Iron Wall in 1923, and allow me to read you some quotes from that. It is utterly impossible to obtain the voluntary consent of the Palestine Arabs for converting Palestine from an Arab country into a country with a Jewish majority. My readers have a general idea of the history of colonization in other countries. I suggest that they consider all the precedents with which they are acquainted and see whether there is one solitary instance of any colonization being carried on with the consent of the native population.
You're now lower volume in the mix. Okay. Let me...
There is no such precedent. Every native population in
see,
the world resists colonists as long as it
how's
has the
that?
slightest hope of being able to rid itself of the danger of being colonized. That is what the Arabs in Palestine are doing, and what they will persist in doing as long as there remains a solitary spark of hope that they will be able to prevent the transformation of Palestine into the land of Israel. Zionist colonization
Let me know.
must either
Let me know
stop
if that's
or
better,
else proceed
worse.
regardless of the native
This
population.
is why I
which means that it can
honestly
proceed and
need
develop
someone.
only under the protection of a power
Can't
that
tell
is
if you don't talk too
independent of
much.
the native
Talk
population.
more. I'm trying so hard to talk more. I have so much to say as well about so many things. Yeah, I think I fixed it. I hope I fixed it. I'm doing a little bit of fiddling around behind the scenes over here. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Can't believe we've got the webcam. Like, every time I look at it, I'm like, guys, every time I look at this microphone, I'm like, guys. So exciting.
Behind an iron wall,
I can fix
which
problems
the
like
native
this easily.
population cannot breach. All through Jabotinsky's writing, the Zionists
I
are
know.
described
How's
as
that?
colonizers, and the Palestinian Arabs are the native population
Quietly.
who are
Yeah, I know. I'm the
resisting
worst.
colonization. Of
Oh, I
course
know.
they're
I
going
know.
to
I got
fight
your
back
message
to
that I need
defend
to go to
their
Office
land,
Works. I will when I go
Jabotinsky
pick the
says,
kids
so
up.
we, the
I just
colonizers, need to be
yesterday.
prepared to...
Okay, so we're talking about colonization, but for everybody who is not happy that I keep talking over the top of the video. Yesterday was a not to leave the house day. Like, yeah, it wasn't happening yesterday. I also was like, I'm not looking at my phone today. Oh, there's an ad in progress. Ad in progress. Bone cone time. Bonus content time. Noticed. Woo! Yeah. I just feel like, and does anybody else get this? Where sometimes you're just like, no, I just need to not have to human, really. I need to not have to human, you know? I really need to just not have to human. Yeah, I'm safe and alive, and I know I've said it before, like one of my toxic trait is that I like hide. I tend to hibernate when I'm, in a spot, retreat. I retreat. So, yes. So whenever I have to do any kind of like healing or whatever, I'm like, okay, go offline, unlock, sign off. Which, no, I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy that when I do it personally and have seen you disappear. Yeah. I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to have those days where you just disappear and no one knows where you are and it's just you, Anyway, we're back from our ad break. So let's pop some more Sean on. I've never spent all day in a house hiding. Never? Oh, I never spent in a house hiding. Never. Oh, pokey reminder about my lack of incidental socialization. Yeah. Might be StreamYard. Oh. Damn it. I think that's the thing though as well, is it's different people, like different people have different needs, and again, like being an introvert versus being an extrovert. Like flag it again if the sound's also being, I've done a few flaggy thingies. Just let me know. Yeah, but I feel like, yeah, I feel like there's different people have sort of different needs in terms of being able to for their recuperation. I think it might even just be because fucking the stuff out there is shaking the door. Shaking the bloomin' door. I retreat to reset. Yeah. And the hardest thing for me as well is because I've got the kids, and the ex who again takes a lot of it's a relationship that takes a lot of work. Yeah, exactly. The baseline is very, very different. But uh I could easily go a week without speaking to another person before I started doing social media. Like when I was not working, I mean, obviously. And when I first had my breakdown, I would spend an entire week in bed, not seeing anyone. And it's one of the things that my psych said to me is there's been a lot of days where you've needed that and you haven't got it. And it's like your body's just said to you, no, you're at breaking point now. You haven't done this for yourself. I'm going to force you to. And now there would be like a whole week that I would go without seeing and talking to another human being if I wasn't doing this specifically. And I'd be more than happy with that. And the days I'm not doing this, I kind of do need to retreat a little bit. I do find it quite a lot. It does take quite a lot on me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and different people do definitely have different needs. And for myself, I'm just noticing a lot more now. I'm definitely needing those days where I do just switch off and I'm not accessible. Um, and and I think it is as a response of like being more accessible, doing this more. And I'm not saying I don't like it. Like I enjoy being able to sit here and chat and catch up with everyone, and like the community that we've built. Like I did a lot after the foster kid moved out. Yeah, I remember. And it's you need to kind of have that time to be able to reset and recalibrate. But yeah, I definitely feel a pressure. Like the more accessible I become, the more I really need to be just completely inaccessible. Like yesterday, I didn't speak to another human being. Like my kids left for school in the morning before I got up, and I didn't speak to another human being until they got home at 3:00. Well, 3:40 actually, by the time we got home, because I pulled up and wait for them to finish playing and they get in the car and, get home. Made them some dinner and they spent their time out here. I spent mine in my room. Like I didn't even spend any time with the kids yesterday. And I think they could tell, like, Malachi kept pushing a few things. And I just said to him, I really need you to back the fuck off now. I really just need, like, no, this is way too fucking much. Which is, and that's the thing is you don't often get that. Like I don't often get the chance. I mean, I don't really get the chance at all to be able to just say no to the kids that way. But yeah, I needed to. I definitely needed to yesterday. Yeah, not talking to people is complete nirvana if it's by choice. Absolutely. But yeah, again, and of course, understanding that other people have needs that are very much counter to that, needs that are not. And it's hard when you, and I think that's the thing as well, is that sometimes with having the kids, like, you can't always have that need to completely retreat met because you've got kids. You don't get to just, and Emery, you're so isolated. Sometimes you've got that need for socialization, but you don't get to get it be met. You don't get to have it be met. And it's hard. It is really flipping hard when you have those times where it is just not, it's not possible to have those needs met. But yeah, try when we are able, if we are able to meet those needs. Not always possible, I do understand. Yo, all good. It would be good for you to come for a week just so you can visit. You don't have to like do anything else. Just come for a visit. That's all. How I was gonna say too, guys, like, how is that sounding? Oh, we would talk a lot though because I can't help it. You know I can't. Sound is better. Excellent. All right. I'm going to press play on Sean's video and see if it is still going to be twisty or not.
I suggest that they consider
Let's
all
see.
the precedents with which they are acquainted and see whether there is one solitary instance of any colonization being carried on with the consent of the native population. There is no such precedent. Every native population in the world resists colonists as long as it has the slightest hope of being able to rid itself of the danger of being colonized. That is what the Arabs in Palestine are doing, and what they will persist in doing as long as there remains a solitary spark of hope that they will be able to prevent the transformation of Palestine into the land of Israel. Zionist colonization must either stop or else proceed regardless of the native population, which means that it can proceed and develop only under the protection of a power that is independent of the native population, behind an iron wall which the native population cannot breach. All through Jabotinsky's writing, the Zionists are described as colonizers, and the Palestinian Arabs are the native population who are resisting colonization. Of course, they're going to fight back to defend their land, Jabotinsky says, so we, the colonizers, need to be prepared to defend our colonization program. He was writing in part to more moderate Zionists who believed they could achieve the aims of Zionism without violence, through diplomatic means or economic.
Sounds like I'm cheering on what Sean's talking about, you know, political colonization. I'm not cheering on political colonization. Don't be doing political colonization. Oh, gosh almighty.
Means, and Jabotinsky is saying no, the people who are already
Yay,
there,
political
the native
colonization.
population, are not going to go quietly, so we need to come prepared for a fight. The power behind Jabotinsky's iron wall, the one holding back the native Arab population, was the British Empire, who were supporting the Zionist project. So let's talk about how that came about. So, briefly, in World War I, the British Empire was fighting the Ottoman Empire, and the Brits wrote to the Arabs saying, hey, here's an idea. If you rebel against the Ottoman Empire, we'll support the establishment of an independent unified Arab state. So rise up against the Ottomans and you'll get national independence, no foreign rule. How's that for a deal? The Arabs did just that and initiated the Arab Revolt, speeding along the defeat of the Ottoman Empire. But, twist, the British had already signed a secret agreement with France detailing how they were going to split up and rule the territories of the Ottoman Empire after its fall. They lied to the Arabs, essentially. National independence? No.
Oh wow, what a
foreign
shock.
rule. So the French occupied Syria and Lebanon, and the British occupied Transjordan, Mesopotamia.
What a
and
shock.
Palestine.
The British
These
lied.
occupations were issued as
What a shock. Sorry. What a shock. The British told these people that they were going to do something that they didn't do. Sorry, I'm literally trying to figure out what is going on.
as League of Nations mandates. And the British occupation of Palestine was supportive
that's
of
what's going on.
Zionism. The British had issued something called
Sounds
the
about
Balfour
right.
Declaration in 1917, pledging support for, quote, the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. And the League of Nations mandate for Palestine stated that the occupying British government should be responsible for putting into effect the Balfour Declaration.
This is back in 1917. So this is before the First World War. So this has been going on for a fucking hell of a lot longer. Yeah, allergies. Yep.
Goal of creating that national home for the Jewish people. This national home is being created, quote, in Palestine. So we can ask, what was Palestine? Just a big empty stretch of land? A land without a people for a people without a land was a slogan associated with the plan to create this Jewish state in Palestine. You've got people who want a country, and look there, an empty country, how handy. The problem, of course, with this phrase is the land without a people part, because there were hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs living on the land, and they had done so for generations. There were Jewish people in Palestine, but before the British occupation of Palestine, Jewish people made up approximately 6% of the total population. So the plan is to create a Jewish state with a Jewish national identity in an area where the vast majority of people are not Jewish. It's not a huge stretch of the imagination to foresee some problems with implementing this plan. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson sent out the King Crane Commission to report on the various
started
areas
before
of the
then
former
even, but
Ottoman
yeah.
Empire, and they visited Palestine and gave opinions on the situation there, and they also gave their assessment of the Zionist project. And I'll quote from the 100 Years' War on Palestine here. Told by representatives of the Zionist movement that it looked forward to a practically complete dispossession of the present non-Jewish inhabitants of Palestine in the course of turning Palestine into a Jewish state.
So the plan was always to just remove the Palestinian people by force. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this plan to exterminate the Palestinians is just because they're considered to be beneath the Jewish people on the food chain, and we want to get the Jewish people out. So we've just picked the people the furthest down the food chain with the least chance of rebuffing us to suffer the consequences. The Christians decided they made a Jewish state. Look, gotta be honest with you. Yeah. Yep. And that's the thing. It's not exactly as though the anti-Semitism is not well documented globally. We be knowing.
The commissioners reported that none of the military experts they consulted believed the Zionist program could be carried out except by force of arms, and all considered that a force of not less than 50,000 soldiers would be required to execute this program. In the end, it took the British more than double that number of troops to prevail over the Palestinians in 1936 through 39. In a cover letter to Wilson, the commissioners presciently warned that if the American government decided to support the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine, they're committing the American people to the use of force in that area, since only by force can a Jewish state in Palestine be established or maintained. The commission thereby accurately predicted the course of the subsequent century. So the Americans were wary about backing Zionism, correctly foreseeing that it would require a state of perpetual violence to enforce. But the British decided to back the Zionists for a few reasons. One was to attempt to enlist the support of Jewish people in the then still ongoing First World War. But for another reason, we can turn to Arthur James Balfour, the UK's Foreign Secretary, the person who declared the Balfour Declaration. So, okay, since this Arthur James Balfour is supporting the creation of a national home for Jewish people, we can assume he is positively disposed towards Jewish people, right? Confusing here, then, is that Balfour also supported efforts to limit Jewish immigration into the UK. In 1919, Balfour wrote of his support for Zionism.
Look at that. There's the support for Zionism going hand in hand with anti-Semitism once again. Yep. Yeah, why geez, it's complex.
Zionism on the grounds that he hoped it would, quote, mitigate the age-long miseries created for Western civilization by the presence in its midst of a body which it too long regarded as alien and even hostile, but which it was equally unable to expel or to absorb. Balfour is supporting Zionism from the perspective that Jewish people represent a societal problem. They are immigrant aliens living among us, never fully integrated into the countries they inhabit, and so if they had their own state, a place with open immigration to Jewish people, that'd be somewhere we could stick them.
Yeah.
Seen from this perspective, Zionist Israel was something like a rug to sweep the so-called
Jewish problem under. That's what they're exactly it. Yeah, no, absolutely, and I got that. I got that part of it. Absolutely, it was more the It's more the modern rhetoric about the fact that that the rhetoric is the same on both sides today. When there's different levels at play there. But yeah, it's
Jewish problem
yeah.
under. Now, Balfour also writes about what he believes would be the benefits for Jewish people, to be fair, escaping very
It's just
real
that they're
persecution
considered
and
one level
discrimination
above the
and so on.
Palestinians,
But
aren't they?
underpinning the whole endeavor is the idea that Jewish people are just too different to be integrated into the countries they inhabit. They're a problem that needs to be solved. This same justification is why today you'll see people all the way to the far right of the political spectrum, including open racists who hate Jewish people, professing support for Israel,
anti-Semitism,
which might seem confusing at first glance,
Zionism.
but it's because Israel to them represents a place for Jewish people to go away. That's half of it anyway. The other half is that Israel acts as precedent for the sort of ethno-national.
But that's exactly it as well. That's the thing I was going to say, is that this is exactly why I'm against the creation of a Jewish state, is because it's exactly the kind of beginning of the ethno-nationalism that, that the far right really, I mean, again, communism, anarcho-communism, we're all against borders and shit anyway. But that's the thing, is I don't necessarily like it's I'm not talking about an undoing of what's been done over the last 100 odd years, 200, whatever, however far back you want to go. I'm talking about stopping the war that's happening right now and stopping the apartheid state that's happening right now. And we 100% do have precedents for how to do that. But yes, I also do think that unlike other places, if you have two passports, if you have an American passport and an Israeli passport, I'm sorry, your Israeli passport's cancelled, go live in America. Soz, no. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all states are bullshit. The problem is that a lot of states try to cancel people's passports. Yeah. Yeah. Yo. But that's what I mean, is the amount of hate there is, the amount of hate that is being, when you say everyone seems to want everyone else dead all the world over. That's what I mean here. The Palestinians are on the bottom of the pile, not wishing people dead, wanting, their family alive. Never been welcome here, even having been born here. Yeah. Imagine being Indigenous and not feeling welcome here. Hey? Fucking sucks balls. Definitely fucking sucks
the
balls.
states they would like to
For
create.
sure, for
So
sure.
anyway, what did the Arab majority think about the Balfour Declaration and British support for Zionism?
What did they think?
Well, to make a long story short, they reacted as if they'd been told, hey, you know your land that you've lived on for generations, the land that we implied we'd back your national claim to if you fought the Ottomans? Well, about that, we're actually giving it to someone else, so they can have a country on it, where they'll have national rights, but you won't. So, how do you feel about that? And the Arabs responded, of course, as the King Crane commissioners predicted, by fighting for their land. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole history year by year until we get to the modern day, as there's simply
different states can do what they want for sure. I do think what's interesting is talking about our recent changes to our immigration policy, where our Prime Minister specifically was talking about wanting countries who weren't willing to take back citizens that we didn't want here, putting them on a travel ban list. And I find it very interesting because travel is one of those things that the government, like, we do have a human right to travel. People always throw this up. Oh yeah, what about this? Blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. There is a human right to travel, and it's one of the reasons that governments justify subsidizing airlines as much as they fucking do, because honestly, they subsidize them way more for it to be beneficial, but they justify it on the basis of, well, you know, travel's a human right and blah blah blah. Anyway, whatever. Got to remember the pricks in charge invented offshore processing and such. Fucked up. Exactly. Absolutely. They're the ones in charge invented it all. And now they're trying to ban people from countries from even being able to travel here if the government isn't saying. And that's the thing, is that it is, again, one of those annoying human rights that we have. Not have to go back if we don't want to. They have the right to leave, especially somewhere, you know, and the fact that these countries are, you know, like, again, we're talking about places like Iran doing more for people's human rights than the Australian government. Not that they're ever, our track record on human rights in this country is just absolutely abhorrent. All right, we've got an ad coming up in a couple of minutes, so we'll have some cone time then. We're just waiting, guys. Waiting for the bone cone time. I feel so cheeky. Yeah. I see no ad. No, 2 minutes still. But no, that's right. You won't see any ads. You'll see the bone cone, the bonus content. Yeah, Iran is on its own weird level of fucking. Don't get me wrong. Iran chooses not to issue certain people birth certificates if they're of different religions. So Iran, if they don't recognize the religion, and they don't recognize a lot of them, but they can just choose not to issue your kid a birth certificate. So don't get me wrong. They're not great with human rights and all that jazz. But the fact that they're like, you know, that's something.
Much to get into. There's the 1936 to 39 Arab revolt against the British occupying government, which the British suppressed. The 1948 war, as the British Empire withdrew from the area, leading to the establishment of Israel as a state, and what is known as the Nakba, the catastrophe, which
What a shot! What are you saying, Kim? The state's power control over people is a problem? That leads to mass death and destruction in the name of nationhood? What? This is shocking. We should do what to the state and its apparatus? I am appalled and shocked. Never would I ever expect anyone to suggest such a thing. How dare you accurately point out the source of so many of the ills that we face today and accurately describe a very simple solution for us in less than 280 characters. Sorry.
We'll read a summary of, actually. The central facts of the Nakba during the
Don't
1948
mind me.
Palestine War are not disputed. Approximately 750,000 Palestinians, over 80% of the population in what would become Israel, were expelled or fled from their homes and became refugees in neighboring states. Cities and hundreds of towns and villages were destroyed or depopulated. Thousands of Palestinians were killed in dozens of massacres. And I feel this answers one of our questions today, by the way. Why does Israel's violence and rhetoric seem out?
Oh, we've got an ad starting in 15 minutes, so I'm just going to pause it there. Yeah, just the Nakba is just one of those things, guys, that just really, makes you think, hey. Bone cone time. Oh. I like how I told everyone I wasn't going to be on live today, and then I have been pretty much just doing a regular, every general live. It's like secret live. No, that's exactly it. Like, it honestly is. The problem is very obvious. The solution even more obvious. And unfortunately, we just got way too many people who want to argue about that. Pre-roll ads are disabled for 41 minutes. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, but I'm going to just move out the window there for a second. On Monday, I said to everyone I wasn't going live because we've got book club tonight. So I was like, oh, I won't go live because we've got book club. I expect very little. It's okay because I decided to come on anyway. So, you know, whatevs. Doesn't matter. I went completely bubble, toil and trouble. Yeah, I like that. Do you know what? We do need, I wonder if we could get a Minotaur doing something of that nature past the senses. What do you reckon? Doesn't necessarily have a burr. A bit be wrong, you know? Something fun like that. I reckon. Ooh. Are we inspiring you, Em? Where did Emery go? Did I miss Emery or what's going on? What's going on? Oh, it's the Good Support Worker Day. Of course. It's the Good Support Worker Day. That's right. That's right. So, yeah. But it's okay because we are going to come back and do book club later on tonight, guys. Don't forget.
Of time. And the answer is because it is out of time. Israel was developed as a British colony and created in an act of colonial violence. Its foundational ideology is explicitly colonial.
So imagine if what was happening right now was that we had Aussie troops going in to somewhere like the Northern Territory a heap of Indigenous people had been stuck. Oh, wait. But instead of doing what they're doing, you know, just the general policing and violence and population control and general abhorrent abuses that they're doing there, they took up a step further and just started shelling them. You know? Book list search club. What am I reading? The club. The book club book. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Martinez. We're only going to discuss the first chapter. On Discord. Yeah, on Discord. But we're only going to discuss the first chapter, so I am going to put that on the Discord as well when I remind everyone about it tonight. So everyone has a chance just to read it tonight. And you can listen to it on YouTube. And the other thing as well that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to yeah, we'll talk about it anyway tonight. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, look at the book in the Discord. This is one of the things that's open as well to members to the general public, guys. It will not be live streamed for just members of the general public. You do have to be a member of the Discord. If you would like to join the Discord, you can do so through my Ko-fi. The link is just down below me down there. Support me at Ko-fi.com, Tamara. Support me at Ko-fi.com, Tomorrow versus Void. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and that gets you access to the Discord, which is where we also have the book club. And this month, we are, well, at the moment, we're doing Gabriel Garcia Martinez, 1,000 Years of Solitude. We are 100 Years of Solitude, sorry. We're discussing chapter 1 tonight, and our next meeting we will be discussing the whole book. But for our first book club, I figured we'd go easy because I figured everyone would have pretty much forgotten. And I am actually going to set up, suck it TikTok. Absolutely. And I will tag everybody in the Discord when we're going live as well. And it will be live over on the Discord. And I'm going to set it up on the Discord so that we have discussions, so that as we get through each part, we can discuss it, and I can set little reminders about where you should be up to in order to be finished by book club date. Because I figured that's what we need, right? You're going to do Ragged Philanthropist next book, aren't you? We're going to have a vote on it. If you can set up a poll for the next book. Kim, set up a poll in the Discord for the next book. Vote my ass. Radical democracy. It's the whole point of communism, Kim. Radical democracy. All right, I'm pressing play. We're watching some more of this. Let's go.
Israel, as it currently exists, is a colonial state in the modern day.
Yeah.
When you see Zionists talking about Palestinians in a dehumanizing way and think, blimey, that sounds like something you'd read a race.
Hey, Kim, you do not have to do anything you do not want to do at all. If I'm trusting you to do something, then I'm giving you full freedom to do whatever you would like with it. And I love the fact that you are no doubt going to take with it where, I don't know, every option is going to be the same movie described as that fucking sucky one. Books will be described as that sucky one that's not worth reading. Or I don't know where you're going with it. I don't know where you're going with it. I'm excited to see the results. Is the next June, what month does it happen? Yes. So the first Wednesday of every month is when book club meets. So tonight we're going to meet about chapter 1. And then what I thought is maybe like, so what I thought we would do is like, you have your book club, right, about the book. You have like a midpoint. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have like a midpoint book club every fortnight on a weekend day, like on a Sunday afternoon or something, or a Saturday afternoon for a couple of hours. And then you're going to have the actual book club on the Wednesday night, the first Wednesday of every And then at that book club, we'll also introduce the next book that we're going to be reading. Is May already? Do we think a month is too short a time? Would like 6 weeks be better? If we did like a Saturday meeting every 2 weeks in between. So like at the moment, what we're going to do is first Wednesday of the month, we meet for our book club meeting and we introduce the next book. Then we have a little mid-month meeting about the new book on a Saturday afternoon. Then we have our monthly book club meeting where we have the meeting about the book and we introduce the next book. Then we have our mid-month meeting about the next book where we chat about it. And then we have our final book club about it. So I'm going to have a calendar. I'm going to do a calendar up anyway. I'm going to do a calendar up that explains it. And maybe we can choose like a few books in advance so people can read ahead and to if they want to. Like if someone says, no, I'll skip June's book because it doesn't sound that interesting to me, but I really want to do July's book, so I'm going to get ahead and read ahead. Like maybe I'll do that as well. Sound good? Sound good? Join the Discord if you want to know more about all this and more. All these great discussions we're having. Join the Discord. Just keep pushing the Discord. That's where all the joy of my life is happening.
Colonizer say about the native population in a history book. It's because it is like that. That is just what it is. Over the following decades, Israel gained a new superpower backer in the United States, who found themselves falling into the trap they'd warned themselves against.
Just
back
forgot
in
a whole month yet.
There were a series of conflicts with Israel's national neighbors. Remember all those Palestinian refugees who were forced to flee to neighboring states? Well, they didn't just disappear. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon to attack the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And after occupying Lebanon's capital, the Israeli Defense Forces oversaw the Sabra and Shatila massacre, where between 700 and 3,500 civilians were murdered, many of them Palestinian refugees in a refugee camp. There is one other event I would like to mention here, the 1994 Cave of the Patriarchs massacre. So, on the 25th of February of that year, a far-right Zionist man from Brooklyn, as in Brooklyn, New York, United States, called Baruch Goldstein went into a mosque in the Palestinian West Bank and opened fire on the Muslim worshippers inside with an assault rifle, killing 29 people, including children as young as 12. He was then beaten to death, which is the only good thing that happened there that day. I mention the Cave of the Patriarchs massacre now because Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's current Minister of National Security, used to keep a portrait of Goldstein, the perpetrator of the massacre, in his living room. He removed it when he entered politics, which was only 4 years ago. I'm not going to list off the countless other massacres, assassinations.
So this is the thing, like the hatred that is being spewed in this community. And this is what I used to get frustrated when I was in the cult. And they used to go on about how the world was having a go at us because of things that our members were doing and comparing us to the Catholic Church, who had priests doing this. But this wasn't something that our elders were doing. It was just something that members were doing. And I remember thinking, but that comparison didn't make any sense because we were supposed to be like if you believe like I don't know how to explain it. But it just felt really weird to me to have them saying that, you know, they were judging when I don't know. You don't know, like it just has that same feeling to it to me. I don't know how to put it into words yet. I'm gonna have to think on it, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to put it into words.
Invasions, displacements, and so on that Israel has carried out in order to defend its colonial project. We really would be here all day if I did that. And the Zionist response to every one of those crimes would be to say, well, we only did that.
It's like the level of devotion that is expected, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, the level of devotion that is expected from a priest in the Catholic Church, the level of is the same level of devotion as an everyday ordinary cult member in the cult where I was. You're expected to give as much of your life as a Catholic priest was. So in terms of the sacrifice that was expected of you, or in terms of like the devotion that was expected of you and how intertwined it was in your life, it was on a whole different level being a member. And I could see that. I could see being a member of the cult that I was in was on a much different level to being a member of the Catholic Church, which is why they were going after our membership in a way that they were going after the membership of the church. And they kept trying to say that it was the same. And I was like, but it's not the same. And that's when I started realizing that I was having this cognitive dissonance with my brain going, but they can't see that it's not the same. They can't see how controlling this religion is to their lives. They can't see like how controlling it is, just what it it's having. And I see that same sort of distinction playing here between the Palestinian versus Israeli populations. I'm not talking about necessarily the higher ups and everything, but the distinction that's being made there between how devoted Israel is to this war versus how devoted is to that's been taken over. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I was trying to say, I hope. I think. I'm going to... Look, anyone who's watching this back on review, leave in the comments and let me know. Tell me on review if I'm making any sense whatsoever, or if I sound like the cone's gone a bit too far. Hydrate! Posture check. Thank you. Thank you, Jazzy. Can't forget, very important.
Because the Palestinians did this to us. To which the Palestinians could say, well, we only did that because you did this to us, and so on and so forth. This is the loop of violence and counter-violence that certain people would like to pretend is the whole history. But no, the violence and counter-violence have a source, which is the ethnic cleansing of Palestine.
And this is the
point.
That
ethnic cleansing is rooted in an ideology of...
This is the point.
Inequality. The ideology behind Zionism and colonialism. The idea that different groups of people should be subject to different rights and should be treated as if they are inherently different. When trying to solve the Israel-Palestine conflict, far too much focus is put on what the Palestinians would have to accept, whereas it's often taken for granted that Israel will continue to be run by colonial Zionist supremacists, and no peaceful solution is ever going to work if that's the case. Colonial Zionists aren't going to accept half of the land they want to colonize being given to the Palestinians as some sort of two-state solution. They don't want the Palestinians to have official statehood, full membership in the UN and things like that, because it would make them much harder to ethnically cleanse, which is the goal. Nor are they going to accept a single-state solution, a secular Israel with equal rights for all, perhaps the right of return for Palestinians with reparations paid and all that. Because if millions of Palestinians get equal rights and can vote, that's the end of Zionism right there. The Zionists currently in control of Israel do not want either of these solutions. What we have right now is a single state, an apartheid state. Israel functionally controls the whole territory. The Palestinians have very limited official power. Israel has them blockaded in Gaza. They can't move freely. They don't control their own trade or borders or airspace. If they march peacefully for their rights, as they did weekly in 2018 to 19, the IDF shoots them in the thousands. There's a point to be made about the inevitability of violent resistance in these sorts of situations. Oh, damn it.
Sorry, Bill.
Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable, so said JFK. If you deny a people their rights and you strike down all non-violent methods for them to attain those rights, what is left are the violent methods. Now, statements about the inevitability of the violence that arises in these
like
situations
4:30.
are often misconstrued as support for the violence itself. But that couldn't be further from the truth. If someone douses themselves in gasoline and then strikes a match, I can tell you what's going to happen, but that doesn't mean I think it's good. I think it's a tragedy, actually. But pointing out that you go on fire if you take those actions is not a celebration of you going on fire. It's a warning against taking those actions. Enforcing an apartheid state takes violence
Hey,
necessarily, and so
Amy!
invites violent reaction.
Amy, I was so hoping that you would be joining us today to talk about Palestine. I am going to have to go get kids from school in a minute, so I'm going to be clocking off. The invite is in the StreamYard if you wanted to jump on, though, and you wanted to run a discussion about Palestine with the chat at all, or if you wanted to, or later if you want to jump on and talk about it, like, you know. I can't tomorrow. I can Friday. Friday I can. Go nap, Juzzy Wuzzy. You can always watch us on the rewatch. We'll make the rewatch. Friday, lock it in. Lock it in, Eddie. Perfect. Perfect. We are going to be talking Palestine on Friday some more. So we have been talking about it today, though I have been getting distracted. But we've been watching Sean's video. No, fair enough. There's a lot going on. Book club is in 5 hours. Yes, so see you in Discord in 5 hours. I will be streaming, but it will only be available for Ko-fi members, Discord members. It will not be available for general public chat. So if you do want to join us, even just to check out the book club and see what it's all about, you will have to sign up through my Ko-fi link to the Discord if you are not already a Discord member. Unfortunately, you can of course cancel immediately. It starts at $1, so it's not like the end of the world. But you know, is what it is. Yeah. So 5 hours. So 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours, maybe. Just trying to think about when kids are actually going to be in bed. Let's say 5.5 hours. Oh, yeah, you are. Everyone in the chat right now is. I'm just on behalf of anyone, for the sake of anyone watching who is not necessarily already a member. But no, Juzzy, you are. Amy, you are, of course. Emery, of course, is. Kim is. Belinda is. So, yeah, everyone here that I'm chatting to at the moment are all ready to go. But for anybody else, the link is to my Ko-fi is in my bio, and that will, if you join up for the Ko-fi for the community membership, that'll get you a link to the Discord, which will get you into the book club. Niles, 11 hours time. What? 11 hours time? No way an 11 hours time. God almighty. No way. You're kidding me. No, definitely not. 5 hours. 5 hours? 5 hours. 5.5 hours. Yeah. So again, link to the Ko-fi is in my bio, and as I said, for a little $1 a month, you can be a community member, a community builder, and you can join the book club. So there you go. All right, let's hit play. We've only got 10 minutes before I got to go get those kids.
Of course,
See how
Zionists would say that attacks like those perpetrated by Hamas on October 7th of last year necessarily invite violent reaction themselves. But this is the old pretending history is just a cycle of violence and counter-violence dodge again. It is not. The violence has a root,
I'm easily
and
confused.
It's the violence Israel is using to enforce an apartheid state. Imagine Bill punches Tom because Tom punched Bill because Bill punched Tom, and so on and so forth. A cycle of violence. If you weren't around to see the start of this chain of violence, it's impossible to decipher who's the instigator and so who is at fault. This is what some people would like you to think the Israel-Palestine conflict is.
Yeah.
But now imagine that
That's
same
exactly
cycle
how
of violence, only Tom broke into Bill's house
try to
and chained
phrase
him to a
it.
radiator first. And then Bill hits Tom, who hits Bill,
No worries,
who hits
Kim.
Tom.
Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. We're logging off in 10. Well, actually 5 now, 6. So we'll be logging off soon as well. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you later on tonight for our book club. Yeah. I'm hoping that's going to go much smoother than every other stream I've done so far.
So on. And the situation is different now, because even though it's the same cycle of violence, only one party has the power to end it non-violently. And Israel holds that power with regards to the situation in Gaza. Also, the United States, as Israel's principal backer, has power with regards to that situation via the enormous leverage it holds over Israel, or could hold over Israel if it chose to. The Palestinians in Gaza could not tomorrow decide to peacefully bring an end to the apartheid state they live in, but the Zionists in Israel could, and that's the difference. It's not very likely, but they could. They have the majority of the power, and so they bear a majority of the responsibility. Hamas's attack on October 7th was, in its scale and deadliness, an enormous embarrassment for Israel's government and military. It made the IDF look utterly incompetent and exposed Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, as a reckless, arrogant fraud, as if that needed any more doing. Netanyahu's strategy was, as he himself has said, to bolster Hamas to keep the Palestinians in Gaza divided.
But again, the fact that one man has the ability to do this, once again, the one man is the problem, rather than looking at the system that exists. I mean, I'm not saying that Sean is doing this. I'm just saying that out there, people will say that, you know, Netanyahu is causing all these issues. Two people want to look at the one person and rather than look at the system that's created, which is, again, America continues to prop up this imperialist, like the imperialism of America is just
from the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, with Hamas's militarism and frequent rocket attacks fired at Israel used as a pretext for avoiding peace talks. Netanyahu claimed an ability to control the height of the flames in Gaza, casting himself as a master manipulator who could manage Hamas and prevent them from doing any real damage. And then, of course, on October 7th, his ability to control the situation was exposed as an illusion. The enormous destruction in Gaza we've seen in the last few months is in part a desperate attempt to re-establish legitimacy and project an appearance of strength. It has nothing really to do with stopping Hamas or rescuing hostages. The safest thing for the hostages would obviously be to negotiate a ceasefire, and the widespread bombing and collective punishment of Palestinian civilians is not doing anything at all to make those civilians want to side with Israel over Hamas. The IDF's strategy of indiscriminate bombing and the effects they profess to believe the bombing campaign will have, like claiming it will ramp up civilian pressure on Hamas, are another element of this situation which seems out of the history books, from a time before we all learned that that doesn't work. My country has a proud national belief in how British civilians reacted during the Blitz, the German bombing campaign against the UK in the Second World War. In that campaign, tens of thousands of civilians were killed in bombing raids which came daily. Millions of houses were damaged or destroyed. Some images of London from the time look like Gaza today, but the morale of the British civilians did not break. They did not turn on their government or demand a surrender. And many other countries have similar beliefs about the resilience of their own civilians when their country is under attack, and that we expect the Palestinians to act.
I don't understand. Sorry, it's frustrating the shit out of me. Frustrating the shit out of me, guys. I don't think I can do it anymore right now. I'm finding myself like easily distracted, which is a sign. Like we've got an ad starting in 2 minutes, so we'll do something else to finish up before we close out for the day. Yeah. We've only got a few minutes left because I find it, I mean, obviously we've been watching it for only, I don't know, half an hour, but we've been talking about it for a lot longer than that. We've been talking about it. We'll be watching it for 4 minutes, sorry, but we've been talking about it now for 4 hours, so 3.5 hours. And yeah, I certainly think there's once again, our attention is necessary. What we pay attention to is important. And you know, like we were talking about earlier, the Zone of Interest, that movie, but we don't want to be those people who could live right next door to Auschwitz and live in complete denial about what's going on. Anyway, we've got an ad break coming up, so while we are on the ad break, I'm going to make myself a cuppa. And then when we come back, we'll have a little bit of a more lighthearted chat about good news to close out the stream before we have book club tonight. Don't forget, put it in your diaries. Book club on the Discord. Join the Discord for the book club. Book club tonight. Book club tonight. I'll keep shouting it. I didn't want to go on TikTok today, and I really should have, because I need to remind everyone about book club. And I know that's where all of my people are, but some days you just can't manage it, you know, and today is one of those days. Today is one of those days. You just can't manage it. Just can't manage it. Now, meme. All right, ad started. Read. All right, we'll be back after these ads. Enjoy. Is it starting? I don't know. I find it quite hard to be able to tell sometimes with this thing. Are we ready for the bone cone? Is it bone cone time? Your ad is about to start. Yes. You told me that already. Come on. I gotta make a cup of coffee. Oh, goodness me. All right. Cup of coffee time. And then yeah, we'll find some good news to talk about before we close out, because I do have to go get my kids soon. And don't want to leave everyone a bummer. And I feel like I always do. Well, not always, but sometimes. I have in the past, in previous times, left people on the bummer, you know? Recycling bin is full. I understand anyone do that. Now, we've only got 40 seconds. Quick! How do we find some good news? Do you think it's possible to find, just without having pre-planned it, just to rock up and be like, good news? Probably not. All right, so we're going to try. So welcome back. Welcome back. We're going to can find some good news. The kettle did not finish boiling in enough time, so enjoy that lovely background noise. I'm having a quick look. Let's have a look. Great. There's a lot of not so great news. I'm not gonna lie right now. Looking into some of these. Ooh! Quick, I need some good news to end with. Quick. Far out. Can I search for some good news? Do they have anything where you can be like, hey? Let's look for like, I don't know, art and culture, shall we? I feel like that's where we're going to find good news if there is going to find any. Do you know what I mean? Section. The magpie besties with a dog got reunited. That's good news. See? Oh, flip. All right. The magpie from Gold Coast. So cute. So cute. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Ooh. I wish you had the clip too. Maybe you can find it for us for later. Let me see. Let's have a look at this. This was posted on Monday. Oh, what? The Animal Services removed the magpie because they weren't registered animal wildlife carers, but they got certified and now they've been reunited. Fantastic. That is certainly some good news for the Void. Well, we have a farmer, mother, teacher, Mrs. Australia, Layla McDougall, is a things are cracked. This is how she bluffed her way into she had no acting experience, but yeah, she wanted to try and make some great TV after 40 days. That's so good. So they basically started a film studio in their small town, and she acted, wrote the script, produced, like revitalized her community as well. Like it brought a lot of interest and industry into the town living in. Says husband Sean, her co-producer, I always believed in it. I had no doubt that she'd be able to pull it off. Well, that's lovely, isn't it? I think that's the clip. I can't clip. I can't. Oh, hang on. Maybe I can through Twitch. Hang on. Give me a second. Let's have a look.
As a pup, Peggy's life seems set. A stuffy for a best friend, a roll of toilet paper for trouble.
What's a toilet bowl?
But you know those stories where no matter how good life looks from the outside, something's missing? Well, I guess this is one of those. Because way back in 2020, Juliet Wells and Reese Mortensen rescued an Australian magpie orphan they named Molly, who would become Peggy's best friend. And yes, it was unconventional. But the dog and the bird figured it out, and their antics, which usually revolved around Molly trying to get a sleeping Peggy to play, developed a massive following, 2 million social media fans. Molly's singing, followed by a litter of pups, helped grow their brand.
So beautiful.
And by the time Molly learned to bark, yes, bark, the online fun had morphed into calendars and pictures, paintings and books.
I can't
Until last month.
We are devastated to give you this news, and of course, so are these beautiful girls, because they've lost their best friend.
Not everybody, it became clear, were fans.
What are you
Several
talking
complaints had been
about?
made to the authorities, and because the family didn't have a license to own a native animal, Molly was taken away. But this story of twists and talons has a happy ending, because the Premier of Queensland called for common sense to prevail. Molly is now back home, but with a caveat. She can no longer be used for commercial gain. But considering Peggy and Molly's fame, it may be easier to put the bird back in the nest. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.
Well,
I
not
mean-
since the Beatles or the Spice Girls have we seen calls for a reunion quite like this. Molly the Magpie and Peggy the Staffy are finally back together. And tonight, only on A Current Affair, you can see the moment they saw each other for the first time.
Molly the Magpie is home.
Words
That's
can't describe
why-
like the joy to see them like remember each other.
Peggy and Ruby.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand because, again, up, I wouldn't have thought. I know at least 3
Peggy
kids
didn't
who
know
had
what to do with
magpies as
herself. She's
pets.
like, is this really Molly? Is this really happening?
Ah.
Who's that? It's Molly. Oh, wow.
All right, I gotta go and get my kids.
Oh, they had the biggest wiggly bums we've seen for a long time. They really did.
Look at her.
That was lovely. That was a good little story to end on. I'm so glad we had those little stories to end on for the day. Yes, it is so, so cute. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to do my little outro. Feel free to stay for the little outro. Like and subscribe to all the things I'm supposed to ask you to do. Don't forget that we have book club tonight. It is going to be by the time sort of we've done, you know, let's say 5 hours from now, 5.5 hours from now, let's say. Not 5.5 hours. What? No, it is 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours from now will be meeting for our book club. If you've only read the first chapter, that's fine. If you haven't read the first chapter, that is also fine. Love you all lots. Thank you so much for joining us in the void. And I will hopefully get a chance to talk to you all later this evening.